You're in tune to the 7997 podcast. I'm Chris. Jackie is actually on the other side of the camera.
Hey,
She got to be loud.
what up, yo?
We wanted to put together a little quick compilation, a supercut of just information we think for folks out there that are looking for info on moving to Mexico. What was our experience like? Kind of having it all in one place so you can sit back and watch all of our experiences and hopefully learn from our mistakes and not repeat those mistakes.
And laugh at our foolishness.
Laugh at the foolishness for sure. So I'm going to leave y'all to it. Get into it. Share around if other people need some info. We're here for you. 7997 podcast. Cuídate, arriesgarse. Take care and take a chance.
You buy your dream home, your forever home, fill it with furniture and everything that makes you comfortable. You can actually see your grandchildren running through the house up and down the staircase.
A year later, you decide to liquidate almost everything you own, put the house on the market, and move to Mexico, sight unseen. So as you kind of heard from the intro, we kind of did this the hardcore way, right? We just kind of picked up, dropped everything, and just rolled out.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
And I think a lot of that motivation was you, on one hand, and where was your mental space at that time? It was a lot going on. What was really pushing us to leave America is really the question.
Yeah. The biggest issue really is that America is going backwards and going backwards fast.
So you want to say specifically Trump's America? Is that?
Very Trumpy.
Yeah.
Very Trumpy. And it's always been there, right? But there's just always been a level of civility. And it appeared that there was some kind of forward progress being made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then this guy rolls up on the scene and he's just like, no, we're going to have it my way or the highway. And it wasn't just him, it was also people around him. Mm-hmm. No one said no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you realize the America that you've been living in that whole time that you thought was slowly dying away, that was, like you're saying, that forward progress, the progress maybe wasn't as forward as you thought it was. It was more of the things that were fighting against you were being quiet. Mm-hmm. And now they had somebody to say, hey, it's okay to do the things that you were doing before. Mm-hmm. Feel free to speak up about your racism. Be yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's okay to be racist.
Yeah.
And I mean, just outwardly ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we saw it. We saw it come out, when President Obama was in office or what have you, but it still, it still had boundaries. There was still a boundary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just is not the space and place that I want it to be anymore. And then we just got the anniversary, 3-year anniversary of January 6th. The terrorist attack on the Capitol. Yeah. That's our hometown.
Yeah.
That's our hometown. And so it's more than my country. Seeing that's our hometown. Mm-hmm. I used to ride the H11 from Temple Hills into DC. I used to go past Constitution, Avenue. I've gone to, that's our home.
Yeah.
Right? And so to see that, it really broke my heart.
Yeah.
It really broke my heart. And to see how our neighbors and the leadership of our country, community, small, wide, right? Small community, big community, how they accepted that, embraced it, and didn't correct it. And
then,
allowed that.
On top of that, you add COVID, and COVID changed not only the handling of COVID by, the president at the time, as well as the way it just changed the complexion of the way that you work, the way that you live. Mm-hmm. And you see this option of I don't need to be in this one place to do a job. I can do it remotely.
Right. I tell people, you got options.
You got options.
Now you have options, right?
We don't have to stay in North Carolina. We could be someplace else. Mm-hmm. So if you put all those things together, it gives us an environment that says, we don't like where the country is. We don't like what our hometown has turned into. We don't like who's in power and the things they're doing to us. And we now have the option to be someplace else.
Yep.
We're not tied to this place.
Yep.
So, we decided that we don't want to be here anymore. We want to be someplace else.
Yep.
And there's several ways to go about being someplace else. And we chose the way to just drop it all, get rid of it all, and just
Band-Aid puller off.
go. Just get out.
But I'm gonna say this too, babe.
Yeah.
The other elephant in the room too is the violence.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I am not so goofy to think that you can, live in a place where there's no violence, right? So there is no place where you can ever find where evil's not present. I understand that. And I think we all understand that, right? However, again, boundaries. Where are the boundaries? So are we saying that there is no care and concern for people, regular people, children, old people, young people, white people, brown people, indigenous? There's no care concern for anyone to go grocery shopping, to go to church, to go to the bank, doctor's office, for our children to go off away to college. We have a son who is a high school teacher. I pray all the time for teachers, their safety. We weren't praying about this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Safety, yeah, but we're talking about maybe a storm. We're not talking about our neighbor having the ability to go somewhere and just go and devastate and terrorize the community. So that's another thing too. The utter danger and despair that our country is allowed to stay in. And again, that goes to the leadership. Yeah.
And once you put all those factors together, it becomes a lot easier to say, let's just get rid of it all and go.
Can I say one more thing?
We have a limited amount of time, but...
Okay, one more thing. I promise. The other thing, I guess it's a threefold, right?
I think that's number 4 now, though.
You sure?
I'm certain it's number 4.
I can't count. There's a premium. So we have to live in this kind of an environment and pay $200, $300, $400 car notes, right? $3, $4, $5 gas, right? $3, $4 for a dozen of eggs. You understand what I'm saying? $9, $10, $12 for a pack of bacon. There's a premium on all of it, and we don't have to pay that.
Yeah. So again,
I'm sorry.
All those heavy things weighing on you at one time, you want to get up and go. And we went sight unseen. I'll say sight unseen in person.
Yeah.
But I think, those of you watching right now, you may be doing the same thing we did at that time of watching YouTube videos, doing as much research as possible to figure out, what does life actually look like? And, we were looking at, Cortez Ross and Merida, Michelle Wedderborn and San Miguel, the Mexican relocation guy, which is a huge resource for us to kind of get the things we need to get here. The guy in La Paz with the cowboy hat, I forget what his name is, the straw cowboy hat. The Country Collectors, who are now broken up, and Tangerinetravels, who are now broken up. Theyarbros, it seemed like traveling can break a couple up. So, traveling and doing YouTube probably.
University.
So we did as much research as we could to understand what we were kind of walking into.
Right. But we coupled that too with my experience of international travel.
Right.
So you hadn't gone international before, however I have. So 25 years ago, Ireland for almost a month, South Africa for almost a month, London, for a day trip, but to be able to actually observe other communities, other, other, how do you say it, cultures, in action, and and also being able to compare and contrast how it was here in the States and then how it was in those other countries. For me, it was a no-brainer.
Once we made that decision that we can't be in America anymore, you have to understand that no matter where you go, you're going to have to make it work for some amount of time. So we start looking at options. We're looking at Africa. We're looking at Costa Rica, Portugal, Panama. But But I think Mexico really became the choice because, number one, it's close. We both have, a little bit of knowledge of Spanish. We worked in kitchens for years, so we work with a lot of Hispanics in the kitchen. So at least I know food. I can say I can,
eat.
I can eat regardless. And also we still have family back in the States. We have 2 sons, and
it makes it easy to
easy to kind of get back and forth. Whereas Africa, you got to go across the Atlantic, and that's a whole day or 2 at least of travel. So Mexico just seemed like a good option, looking at all of the visa things involved with it, and we were able to qualify, and it wasn't too difficult of a process. So we said, okay, Mexico, that's the thing to do. So we did as much of that research as possible, found some realtors in the Mexico relocation guide. Shout out to Joan at San Miguel Rentables and Ellie Lopez, who helped us out a ton.
Super nice.
So I think the weird thing is we kind of chose San Miguel really because of my mother, I think, kind of gave us. We were looking at a bunch of different places in Mexico, Morelia, Puebla, maybe Mexico City, Merida for a second. But like most people, we don't want to be in that Merida heat because it's ridiculous.
They say it's hot and hotter.
So we ended up going with San Miguel. My mother actually kind of put us on to it because she had always kind of wanted to go to San Miguel.
And I didn't know.
I didn't know it really existed either.
Because I reached out to him like, hey, Mom, because whenever we make a move, like, we want to see if anybody else want to roll too. And it's like, hey, Mom, have you ever thought about going to Africa to live? She's a designer and, very much in tune with the culture and everything. And I figured she would have said yes. She said she's always wanted to visit, but never to live. And so, but Mama said, but I really want to leave the North because they came, they left Detroit. And I said, I got to get somewhere warmer. But she had been researching Querétaro, which is a city about 45 minutes to an hour away from San Miguel. And that's where one of our closer international airports is located. So you know how it is now, the day of www and everything that you can research online. We went in, right? And just started researching. It's like, wow. And then intros, YouTube University. And being able to see, walking tours and hear people's experiences. And it's like, wow, it's really beautiful. And then doing research from the government websites and the weather, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things we took into consideration. Because we were looking at Puebla. It's too close to a volcano for me right now. I'm not that adventurous. But we did. We looked at many places, right? And I mean, one thing don't overlook is those walking videos on YouTube where the guy just has a camera up and he's in his car or a motorcycle or just walking down the street and you can just kind of see what does it actually look like when it's very
not
helpful, right?
Because a lot of YouTube videos are like travel videos and they're giving you the shiny, they're giving you the touristy stuff. They're not giving you the normal everyday life. So like those walking videos are really great just to see what does it look like when I'm walking down the street.
Correct. But those are very helpful. They're very useful.
Very.
Stop looking at all the chilequiles videos. You know what I'm saying? Like, get away. And even for San Miguel, we're known for that parroquia, right? And the view. And we're going to show you the views. We're going to show you those, right? Because that's part of our day-to-day experiences, if you go out or whatever, and there it is. But still, we're going to talk about the regular things.
And that's part of the reason I think we wanted to put together this channel to kind of share a little bit of what everyday life in San Miguel looks like. Because, if you live in a touristy city, there's always a disparity between the place where everybody goes to spend their money versus the place where the regular people live.
Correct.
So like just being able to see, okay, that's great, the parroquia is there and there's all this stuff here, but your daily life may be a little bit different than being at the parroquia every single night and every single day.
Because Central is you're not going to go there every day. It's just not a thing.
After a while, you're going to get tired of the crowds like, most of us do. So we chose San Miguel, but we also took a pit stop before that. And we took a vacation / residency trip. And part of that was because of like Mexico relocation guy. We found a great facilitator and she showed up in a couple YouTube videos. And the laws are different in Mexico depending on where you go.
Correct.
So depending on which state or city you go to for your residency, the rules are just a little bit different,
not in a shady way.
Not in a shady way, but it's not.
Just like in the States, something that's illegal in Maryland may be legal in Colorado.
Exactly.
So it's not shady. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. So La Paz just happens to be an easier process. Like we were able to get our temporary residency first, and we went back a couple months and got our permanent residency, whereas in other places you may have to wait until the end of your temporary in order to get the permanent. So there's little things like that that just kind of helped us out. And then also it was a vacation. It was
Yeah.
on the beach, and it was La Paz in the time of the year when it wasn't super duper hot. So
And
it was,
this La Paz, y'all, is south of California.
yeah, Baja California, sir, not too far from Cabo. Everybody kind of knows Cabo.
Yes, exactly.
So that was really sort of a great introduction, I think, to Mexico, because also that part of Mexico and Baja California, so it's close to California. There's still a lot of English there, so you don't feel like you're as far out on the limb of not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Not as much English as San Miguel, particularly, but it gives you sort of that first introduction into Mexico, and we were able to do it in a way that was relaxed. Like we didn't necessarily have to do a whole lot of working. We could do a little relaxing, see the city, take care of our residency stuff. And then from there, we did fly back to San Miguel and stayed in a hotel for a little while until we kind of found our permanent place.
Right.
And we came in, after Thanksgiving. So that's sort of like in the heart of the busy season. So things that were on the market would tend to be more expensive, and there tends to be fewer things on the market as well.
Right.
And we lucked out and found the place that we found at a pretty good price, about 18,000 pesos a month.
Right.
So we were able to kind of come into San Miguel and start off pretty much the way that we really wanted to. So that was like really the big push for us to kind of get out of America, get into Mexico, get our residency stuff started and taken care of, and find a place to really call, a home for right now as we kind of get our legs together and spread our wings a little bit.
Right.
797.
Homeless, immigrants, in a new country.
No friends and family, a handful of resources, nothing but each other. Now what? You better go and make it happen. We found ourselves in San Miguel, and we were basically, like you said, kind of homeless, right? We didn't have a permanent place to live.
No, really homeless.
Yeah, we were in an Airbnb in a hotel,
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. So I guess like if we kind of rewind just a little bit, like why did we really choose to be in San Miguel? Like what were the things that kind of made it appealing to us?
So San Miguel is close to Querétaro.
Yeah.
Because we really thought that our parents, my in-laws, his parents, would end up in Querétaro, which is about an hour away, 45 minutes to an hour away. So at least we would be close, close enough to them. And it's also, there are also 3 airports around San Miguel, but just really the awesome tag-along buddies is that it's just absolutely beautiful. The weather is amazing here. There's a lot of English spoken here.
Yeah.
Or at least enough to where we wouldn't be absolutely isolated.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of a lot of people's reasons of coming to San Miguel is like that transition from English-speaking country to Spanish-speaking country is eased just a little bit because there is a fair amount of, Mexicans here that can speak English.
As well as expats. And other immigrants, right?
Yeah, and like a lot of people like to say, San Miguel is Little America.
No.
And it's not. It's a tourist town. You go to a lot of tourist towns around the world. English is going to be spoken. It is sort of the dominant language on the planet.
Just because it's a McDonald's doesn't make it a mini America.
Right. And
it's not.
The parallel I like to draw is like Chinatown. Like when you go to Chinatown, another city, like everybody speaks Chinese. It looks like you're in China. There's Chinese markets. There's, you're really immersed in the culture of the place inside of, whether it's in Mexico City or it's in Boston or it's in New York. You feel like you're in China.
Correct.
San Miguel does not feel like that. It still feels very Mexican. It is, a big Mexican tourist destination. Tons of Mexicans live here. 20% of the population speaks English.
Correct.
So we do have a good representation here, but it's not like the entire city is catered to us. It is not.
It is not.
You'll still find plenty of people who have absolutely no idea what you're saying in English.
Correct.
And like even we went out to dinner the other night, like the server knew a couple lines in English to kind of help us out. But for the most part, you had to figure it out. And they did have like an English menu and a Spanish menu.
Yeah, that was
so you'll
helpful.
get that help. But it's not, it's not America town. It's not Little America by any means.
Period.
You still need to know some Spanish to get around. And you'll be better all for it, I think.
Absolutely.
So there's that. There is the food and restaurant scene that's here, which is world class. Like, if you love to eat, this is the place.
There's good food, yeah.
There is a different restaurant for every day of the year.
Every day.
Constantly, one's opening, some closing down.
Yeah.
They're upping their menu.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've probably seen this by now, you've seen the burger video. And we found a great burger at an Indian restaurant of all places.
Just 2 days ago.
Yeah. And
so we will have a part 2 on the burgers. Okay, guys?
Right? They revamped their menu. They said, we're doing smash burgers now. Okay, sure. I'll take that. And it's one of the best burgers I've had here yet.
Delicious.
Including the $45 burger at Hackman. So like this is a place that a lot of people just are drawn to because you want to live a beautiful life.
And it's also very comfortable.
Very comfortable.
You know what I mean?
There are comforts. I'm also going to say there's cobblestone.
Oh yeah.
So the cobblestone and the hills will disrupt your comfort.
Yeah, I'm not talking. But I'm talking this feeling of there's a comfort. You know what I mean? There's a hominess to it. It's,
definitely.
Especially once you find your community, which we have.
Yeah.
Friends and family. Like it's really cool to have that.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that Merida has going for is there's a large black community there, so a lot of black folks want to come there, and I think we're growing that same community here in San Miguel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, so if you feel like you want to be around, your own people as well, that option is there for you as well.
Right.
And in general, like the cost of living as compared to the U.S. is wonderful. Cost of living as compared to Mexico is super expensive.
It's definitely it's on a higher end here.
I mean, it's not as bad as Mexico City, but it's a little beneath that. So like if you're Mexican and you're looking for the cheapest place to live in the country, this is probably not the place you're going to come to.
Correct.
A lot of people will say it's super expensive. And I think the one thing about the expense here is that it's a scale, right?
Always.
If you want to pay $3,000 to $4,000 a month and get you the biggest and the best, you can. If you want to pay, $600 to $700 a month, you can do that as well.
Yep.
So you can't really do that in a lot of other places like in New York or Chicago where it's expensive.
Yes or no?
There's really no other scale.
It's expensive and then more expensive. It's like the Merida temperatures.
Right.
It's just hot and hotter.
Right.
Correct.
So at least you have some options here and, you're not going to be house poor.
Correct.
So like if you spend $700 a month and maybe you have a little smaller apartment somewhere, you maybe not spend as much time in your apartment anyway. You're going to be out around town seeing things in restaurants, at the sites, at the parochia, whatever you want to do. So life is just a little bit different here.
Correct.
So kind of thinking about, we're here, we're homeless, we're trying to figure it out. And we're looking at our options, which at this time of year in December are pretty slim.
Because the snowbirds are here.
Snowbirds are here. Mexican tourists are here for the holidays. Like this is a big area to be in around the holiday time. So they come for Christmas, they come for New Year's, they come for Three Kings Day and all the other,
That's true, yeah.
related holidays.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty slim market and, we knew something about the town from looking online, we watched the videos, Guadalupe, San Antonio, Guadiana. Like those are the 3 neighborhoods you want to be in. But of course, there wasn't a whole lot in those neighborhoods that we really could get access to. So the neighborhood we actually ended up in is called Caracol. It's actually a little bit above Guadiana.
And near Allende as well.
Near Allende. And the reason we kind of chose, I think, this neighborhood, one is just limit of options, right? Wasn't a whole lot out there.
Yeah.
We came and visited the neighborhood. It's in a little Privada. We liked the landlord. We liked the space. The people around, the neighbors were nice. And it's right off of Cinco de Mayo, which has like all the shopping you kind of want there. There's produce stands, there's butchers, there's
fresh eggs,
polleria, there's a couple of ice cream shops, a couple of corner stores. Like you have a lot of options just to kind of walk and go shopping. The only issue is those options are downhill. Which means if you want to get those options back home, you got to come back up the hill.
Uphill or a taxi.
And that hill is a steep hill. And we didn't have a car. We didn't have any plans to have a car.
Right.
It's a very walkable city. You can get taxis and Ubers all over the place.
For $3-4.
$3-4 very cheaply. And the apartment itself was fully furnished.
Super nice.
Very furnished, very well. Because a lot of times you'll see these furnished apartments and it's just kind of slapped in furniture. It's not really, anything you'd be excited about.
Right.
But this one was really nice.
Had character,
furnished.
right?
Had character, had some life to it.
Fully furnished.
Yeah.
2-bedroom, 2-bath. $900.
And the price was good. One too high.
Is that okay to say $900?
Yeah, well, 18,000 pesos, because 18,000 pesos right now is not $900.
That's true. Yeah, but round about $900, and we could never have this in the States.
Yeah, and I would say One thing to be careful about is your price range. Just understand that, exchange rates fluctuate. So if you're using American or Canadian dollars, have sort of a range of what you want to pay for it.
Yeah,
rather than saying,
built-in cushion, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because your 18,000 pesos might be $900 when you come down, and it may be, $1,000.50 like it is now.
Right.
So understanding that, your budget's going to need to be able to slide a little bit on that. So what else was some of our reasons of why we kind of chose this area? It's close to everything. If you come down Cinco de Mayo, you hit the Ancha, which is sort of the main strip through town. You can walk to the Jardín in 20 minutes.
You can walk to the main grocery stores. They have beautiful grocery stores here.
Yeah.
The main grocery store we go to is more or less like a super Target.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. Get anything you need, for the most part.
La Comer, and then right across the street from La Comer is City Market, which is like the Neiman Marcus of grocery stores. If you want to, go above and beyond and get the fanciest stuff you can find,
right?
That option is there.
Yeah.
On the way down, you have,
tons of restaurants. Easy to catch a cab as well.
Very much so. It's like if you really need a cab, you can walk down to the Ancha and get a cab. Also like the view, like we're not too far to like just walk up and get a view we want to.
Right. They're called miradors. So we're around 3 miradors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then even our apartment, it's a house, but it's broken up into apartments. So even if we just want to walk up on the top of our roof, our rooftop has amazing views too.
Yeah. And I'd also say that's probably a con to this place as well, is that number one, we have neighbors upstairs. And also if we want to get to our rooftop, we actually have to walk all the way around the entire block uphill to get to the top of the apartment.
It's good for the heart, but you don't want to do it all the time.
It's not good for the feet or the back, but the heart is good for. So like, San Miguel has views and you want to take advantage of that and as easily as possible.
Correct.
And this one, there's a little bit of work in order for us to take advantage of the views.
Little work.
And to be honest, we haven't taken advantage of those views very often.
Right.
Because of the work involved.
Correct.
So there's that. So like, this is kind of where we are. We've been here for about a year, a little over a year. We've actually found another place, our next place to kind of transition into.
Yes.
And I think, what's kind of, been different for us in this new house search? Like, what did we kind of do differently, you think?
So the first house search, honestly, we were homeless immigrants. Let's be clear, right? So we wanted to get unhomeless, right? We wanted to get somewhere comfortable so that we can just now do a woosah moment, right? And because we're still working too, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to get comfortable and unpack our suitcases, and let our hair down, right? For the most part. And so that was more on needs, right? And then, like you said, the scarcity of the options that we had, right? So this time around, we could look at more of the wants. And also, now that we're familiar with the city, do we want to be at the top of the mountain? Do we want to be, the bottom of the mountain? And now we can really sort of kind of be a little pickier, a little choosier, if you will. And so, I think that's really the major difference. Now we can go off of our wants and really look back and go, okay, we want the Mexican experience. We want to be able to just walk within 6 blocks and get fresh bread, fresh tortillas, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, right? Fresh meat in our own little neighborhood. We can do that here. But like you said, that hill is no joke, okay? It's no joke. So if we can get to a flatter area, now we get to have that more of immersion, So that's really the biggest thing. I think now we can go based off of wants a little bit.
Yeah. So like some of those wants are, as two people who are not in the healthiest of conditions.
Not yet.
In this city, you have to consider the hills, the terrain to where you are. And do you want to traverse that terrain on a day-to-day basis?
Correct.
So like she said, Cinco de Mayo has everything that we kind of want in sort of that Mexican experience, but there's a lot more work to do that. So we did choose San Antonio, which is a little bit flatter. In that area, we can kind of get off our walking in without such extreme hills. Also
you ain't going to escape that cobble, but we did escape the
You can't escape the cobble. Also realizing, we came from, how big was that house? 3,000 square feet?
About. Down
to, I don't know, less than 1,000 square, maybe 12 at the most.
Apartment.
So, it's just the two of us, but space still feels like we need a little bit more. So we did want something that was a little bit larger, a whole house that, there weren't any upstairs neighbors.
No upstairs neighbors.
Clopping around, banging on walls.
No upstairs neighbors.
Barking dogs.
Well, we might not get away from the dogs.
I mean, you can't necessarily get away from the dogs.
But we're getting away from the
our upstairs
upstairs
neighbors
neighbors.
have dogs now, and we don't hear them. Our previous neighbors had dogs, and we did nothing but hear them.
Correct. It's weird.
As well as I think just the house hunt itself, realizing the environment of San Miguel and the way that real estate works here.
A little cyclical, right?
Like you can't go to Zillow and get everything.
Right.
You have to go to the realtor that has that property. So we'd go to,
right.
contacted probably 3 or 4 different realtors just to kind of get a good idea of what's on the market.
Yeah.
And we had a
Say
whole lot
that
of time
again,
to
though,
it.
for the people.
So like every single property may have just one realtor for it.
Correct.
Every realtor doesn't have access to everything that's on the market.
Yes. So for the American brain, there is no apartments.com, rent.com, Zillow.
Well, there are a couple of sites like that. What is it, like 24/7 Inmuebles or something? There's a couple of sites out there like that.
He's keeping secrets.
But they're not very good.
Okay.
They're not up to date. They're not the latest and greatest. If you really want the latest properties, you go on Facebook and see who's posting it.
Okay.
Or
So
you
then
go to
you
the realtor
still wind up with an individual agent.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So the key is like there isn't one central source to see everything on the market. You got to go to those individual realtors who have those properties.
Right.
And even then, you don't always get sort of the inside track until you actually talk to them. So like the place that we're in now, actually we got to go see before it even came onto the market.
That's true.
We were
that's
lucky
true.
that, our realtor happened to be already working with them and saying, hey, they had an Airbnb they wanted to convert into a long-term rental. Before it even
And
hit
she
the
knew
market.
our aesthetics.
She knew what our aesthetics, what we liked. She knew our timing.
Yeah.
Because we started looking earlier than we should have started looking.
For the record.
We were like a couple months ahead. And usually like in Mexico, you want to start looking almost a month you're planning on moving.
Yeah.
Because it's really down to that, what's available right now. And stuff goes off the market super quick.
That's true. Yeah.
So we got really fortunate that we could find a property that was super nice, good price point for what we were looking for, and we got to it early before anybody else was able to see it. So we got exclusive access to it, and part of that was just really just being in contact with our realtor.
With the realtor.
Making sure they know what you want, and they're always kind of keeping an eye out for
Correct.
it. And even conversely, like my parents are looking for a workspace right now, and the realtor's like, hey, I got these things right now, and then as she starts thinking about what you need, it's like, oh, I know I got this thing over here you might want to look at. So there's things that aren't even advertised that they know they have on the books that maybe they'll just kind of bring out because they know that's what you're looking for.
Sometimes it's who you know.
It's always who you know. Yeah. So, location, big thing, making sure you have as many realtors on your team as you possibly can, having a better understanding of the city and where you want to live. There's still a lot of parts of the cities we haven't been to.
That's true.
There's plenty of parts that, we would really be comfortable in. Other than just, San Antonio is a foolproof if you're a gringo, right? So like everything's there. It's the most convenient. It's also probably one of the most expensive parts of town as well. So yeah, like that transition from where we are now to where we want to be, it's just more knowledge, more understanding of what we need, understanding what the city can provide, understanding where the noise is in the city. There's parts. San Antonio is a little louder than maybe some other places.
Mexico be Mexico.
Right, but Mexico's going to Mexico at the end of the day. You're going to get fireworks and barking dogs and parades and all that stuff.
Fireworks?
Did you say fireworks?
I don't know, but would you say fireworks? On a Sunday.
And the funny part is on Facebook groups, you'll hear people like, what are the cannons going on? Why are they shooting cannons? Like, those are actually fireworks, my friend.
Welcome to Mexico.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're not gunshots.
They're not gunshots.
So thank God for that.
Absolutely.
It's just their culture. No, but it's true though. And I want to say this too, guys. As we're looking for places to live and stuff like that, we've noticed too, there are many spaces, right, that are fully furnished.
Yeah.
But if you want to come and put your own stamp on your own space, oftentimes that same space can go for $200, $300, $400, $500 cheaper.
Yeah.
If it's unfurnished.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really cool. You have options here.
That's a good point of like the difference between pricing and furnished and unfurnished. And even like they'll charge you extra for furnished, and the furniture won't be anything that you ever want in your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I don't want to pay extra for the furniture I don't want.
Correct. And you can get some things made here that are just hands down beautiful. Just literal art. They're just so pretty. Handmade furniture, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I enjoy about sort of living here is that there are a lot of furnished options, and like you don't have to carry your whole life with you if you don't want to.
That's right.
You could travel in, a backpack and a couple of suitcases, maybe a box or two. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to moving day, you can throw it in the back of a truck and
pickup
be
truck.
out. Because we moved enough times that like I'm sick of moving and don't want to be lifting furniture. Like literally in the U.S., I'd say we got a little savings account for the movers when it's time to move.
You better say it.
I'm going to pay somebody to do it because my back is not for it anymore.
Chris, somebody come help.
Somebody, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like why we're kind of here. Mm-hmm. Some of the little nuggets we got around house hunting and why we kind of chose where we chose.
Yeah.
So as always, like, comment, subscribe.
Please and thank you.
Let us know what you want to know. We're here to share what little bits of information we have with you. Mm-hmm. So maybe next time we'll talk a little bit about making money in Mexico, job hunting job shifting and changing, all those things that you're gonna have to deal with when you get here.
When life be life.
So again, go watch another video.
Please and thank you. And share. Comment.
Sure.
Like.
All those things.
Subscribe.
You say ring the bell, the notification bell, whatever YouTube needs you to do to understand that you want to watch our content more and get other people to watch it. Just do that thing.
Please and thank you.
So yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Again, this was Chris and Jackie.
Adios.
Our series Aprende Más. And cuidate. I said it before you.
You don't say it like I do.
I don't have to.
Cuidate.
Cuidate. There it is.
You're annoying.
Bye.
Your remote job that you can do remotely from anywhere in the world says you can't do it from Mexico.
And your remote job that you can do from anywhere in the world and that your contribution is the same no matter where you contribute from the world says that you need to be on the Mexican pay range instead of the U.S. pay range. Now make that work.
Work it out.
We're Chris and Jackie, and you're watching Aprende Más, our series on small town life in San Miguel de Allende, outside of the tourist centers. What's life really like here?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Good to see you again. Last episode, we talked about housing, why we kind of chose to live where we live, needs and wants. Now we're going to get a little bit into money, income, how we make money here, the things that we left behind, money.
Yeah, oh my God.
The things that changed when we got here, money. So yeah, like we said before in the beginning, like we kind of left everything. We got rid of the house. Well, we're actually just getting rid of the house now, but that's a whole different story.
Another episode.
But basically liquidated the house, got rid of everything. And you actually happened to get rid of a job, not by choice.
It was not by choice.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. I was like, okay, ooh, remote. All right, we got this. Have my little coins, and we just thought we want to translate that and take it on with us to Mexico. And I was very open, and honest with my management, let them know, hey, these are our plans, right? And we'd like to take this. I'd like to take my job and continue that in Mexico on our next move. And HR said that Mexico was on a do not work list. There are a few countries in the world if you work in a certain sector. So for me, I was in finance. So I want to say Iran, Iraq, Russia, obviously North Korea.
Right.
Mexico is one of them as well, where they will not allow their work to be done.
Yeah, and I will say that being open and honest is an ongoing theme you're going to see today. And for us, it did not pay off.
It was weird.
There's the alternate option of getting a VPN,
Mm-hmm.
not letting folks know that you are in the place that you are.
Mm-hmm. And we've read that. We have not done that.
We have not done that. But
Literally, it's been on the news. Well, we've read that.
It's an option for you to do. Do it at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for us, being open and honest, and feeling like we thought we had companies that would support that move,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't necessarily support it in the way that we had wanted them to support it.
Correct.
So, make your own decisions about how open and honest you want to be about where you are located on this earth. But we all know COVID has proven you can do a job from anywhere at any time.
Anywhere.
Not that that's the only thing to consider, but,
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
So we came down with just my income and just my job.
I pretended to be retired. Keep going.
Yeah. So, what did you really try and do as far as to replace that income when we got down here? Like, what was sort of your path to figuring it out?
Yeah, no, good question. So I tried to stay retired, but it didn't work.
No time to retire yet. Sorry, we ain't got it like
Big
that.
fella was like, nah, sis, you've got to clock in. You've got to do something right. So I think I really tried what they tell you to do, go to so-and-so job finder, the remote kind of work, from home websites. Also, there are international companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the international companies to see if I could get a position there. And it really was just turning up donuts. And looking back a year later, I do know that I wasn't looking as hard as I needed to. You know what I mean? But don't make the funny googly face.
I could have told you that.
Well, but I'm going to say this, though, and I'll be, very candid and open with you guys. 1 month before we moved here, my brother had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So I really emotionally wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to work. I really wanted some respite time.
Right.
I really did.
And it was like, again, thinking about all those things that were weighing on you when we made that decision to move, political environments, violence environments, COVID and all that, and then
missing my
brother.
boys, lost Lloyd.
The kids had kind of just grown up and kind of left the house at that time too. So dealing with that separation anxiety. So it was a lot kind of weighing on you at one time.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing you probably don't remember is before we actually left, you had done English as, teaching English as a second language.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
You didn't get that certification done.
They call it TEFL. TEF, like Frank L. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teaching English as a first
power
language.
through getting that certification done.
Yeah.
Which you now have the certification.
I am certified to teach.
So that's always an option. A lot of people take that option too, of teaching English as a second language online or even in person. Just because, English is the most dominant language in the world.
That's correct.
Tons of people want to learn it.
Yep. And they want to learn it around the world.
Yeah.
So it is something you can literally do remote. Like you could be in
24 hours a day.
Yeah, seriously. You could be in Mexico and teach in China.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, doing the, monster.com, Indeed, all that stuff, I think we all try that. I don't know how many people out there have success with it.
If y'all got it, hired through those.
I've had very little success with
know.
it. A lot of jobs I think you find through people word of mouth. Oh, my boy over there says we got a spot open that you might fit into.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of was the key for you of just, hey, I've been doing this job hunting thing, but I actually know people that might need some help.
That may need help. That's
that
correct.
Have their own businesses, and you start reaching out to folks.
Right.
And, how'd that work out for you?
Right. So after I, came back to my senses, and you did let me know, sis, it's time, right? So I actually just reached out to my network. I want to say I just put out it was a straight Facebook post. Hey, does anyone need any virtual assistance? Period, point blank and simple. And so one day I had 0 jobs. The next day after that post, I had, I think, 3.
You were Jamaican.
I went to Jamaica, like, man, I didn't want to work that hard or that much. So, but thank God, thank the Lord. On one hand, your salary could support that time off for me, right? And that transition period, right? And then thank the Lord, I had some folks that you know that was like, okay, yeah, I could use some help. So the first position I took, and I still have, thank the Lord, is with a real estate firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I work for them remotely with their agents and with the broker in charge. And locally on the ground, when I'm needed, I can take my culinary experience and, you know, and chef over at Casa Elm.
Yeah.
Shout out to Michelle. Thank you. So yeah. So that's really what I've been doing to make my coins and earn my keep.
To me, it's a mirror of, I think, Mexican society as a whole. Like, you will find people here hustling every day, all day.
Pepitas, gummy bears. You got to make it work.
You got to make it work.
You got to eat. You got to work.
Actually, down on our corner, sells clothes. Usually, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, she'll be out there just selling secondhand
clothes. A local
clothes.
Thrift store. Yep.
But during the week, I also see her in front of the school selling snacks to the kids.
Really? I didn't know that was the same lady.
It's the same lady.
And it's a snack table.
It's a little snack table, and she has
juice boxes, snacks.
When the kids come out of school, you know, you want a little sandwich, a little drink, whatever.
You gotta get your hustle game.
You gotta get your hustle game on.
Yep.
So, you know, whatever you gotta do to kind of make a dollar connect.
Wow, I didn't even know that was
in Mexican society, like that's what they do.
And it's easier too.
It is.
It's not a whole lot of red tape.
Yeah.
You know, unless you want to rent out a building or a restaurant or, you know, a shop or something like that. You know, other than that, it really seems to be very easy.
Do that, like, it's not even that much of a red tape.
Yeah.
Like, if you got the money on the spot, you sign the contract, you got a space.
That's true.
And okay, go make it happen. You know
that is so true.
Now there is all kinds of tax laws and things like that you know,
gotta pay your taxes.
They find ways to get around if they need to get around. But in general, like, you gotta do what you gotta do. And on my end, I had to kind of do what I had to do too, because, you know, I had a 6-figure tech job. Felt like, you know, that's plenty of money to kind of get us through. Spoke with my job to begin with and said, hey, again, open and honest, want to move to Mexico. We already had people working in Mexico.
Right. Let's be clear. There are people working in Mexico, to India, to Ukraine, around the world.
Right.
So there was no reason
it's
to
an
try
international, fully remote company.
Fully
we
remote.
Had people working in Philippines, all over the place.
Yep.
So I did my due diligence up front and said, hey, we're looking to move to Mexico. What do I need to do to get everything in line? You know, made sure, hey, my pay is going to stay the same. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Because we had plans. The flagpole, up the chain.
We had plans.
Right. Everybody signed off on it. Everything was all good. And then once I got here, it was an entirely different story.
Within 6, 7 months
Probably
or so?
6, 7 months. So we had, you know, pay was unchanged for about 6, 7 months. And then all of a sudden, HR folks was like, oh, I forgot to get it signed off by the head of HR. And we need to move you into the Mexican pay scale instead of the U.S. pay scale, which means I now no longer make 6 figures.
Right. It was like a 40% cut or so?
It was a lot of money.
It was a lot.
It was a lot of money to lose. And again, once you're here and you're established, and I like my job. I'm not even mad at my job. Like, everything else other than that one situation for me is gravy. I love it. I don't want to move anywhere else.
Yeah.
I'm a person who gets into a job, into a house, a home, a place, and I get comfortable. I just want to, you know, make myself feel like I'm there and it's home.
Right.
But again, you're in this situation where your money is fluctuating. So not only is my pay fluctuating,
out of your control,
the power of the dollar is fluctuating at the same time. So, like, if I can give anybody any advice, you know, live beneath your means.
Yeah.
Have enough cushion so that if something does go wrong and your money isn't solid, you know, some folks move down here with retirement income or Social Security, and that stays the same. It doesn't really change.
Right.
But, you know, you might move down here, you might lose a job. You might, you know, switch a job. Your pay might change.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
If anything you can learn about, you know, not only just moving to Mexico, but just moving.
Period, right?
And really, it's like life in general.
It is sort of
like,
kind of lifey. Live beneath
things are going
your
to change.
means.
People are going to throw things at you. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on that you're going to have to weather.
Yeah. Don't upgrade your lifestyle just because you got to increase.
Right. And, you know, once you get here, there's going to be a ton of reasons why you might want to go back home. So I could have gone back home and kept my pay the same and went back and paid the exorbitant mortgage we were paying, live on that same, basically go back to what we left.
Right.
Or you can kind of stay here and figure out, okay, how can I make this thing work?
Right.
Because there's always going to be something here that's going to throw a wrench in your program that's going to make you say, hey, maybe I should go back. But if you're really committed to being here, there's always solutions.
Yeah, that's true.
Medication was a big one for me. I'm a kidney transplant patient. Finding my medication was really difficult. It took me a couple months to figure out where I can get this medication from. And now that I have it, everything's smooth sailing.
Yeah.
But that could have been a reason to go back.
Yeah.
So now just realizing that, make sure that you have as much cushion in anything that you really need in life as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that rent low as much as possible. Try and keep your income as high as much as possible. Make it as easy as possible for you in case something goes wrong, that you don't have to pick up and kind of carry everything back home. And we all have different reasons why we came. So maybe going back home isn't an issue for you.
Right.
But we really didn't want to go back to that environment we were in.
Right.
So it's really important for us to make sure that we figure out a way to make it happen as we're here.
Mm-hmm. But can I say something? The
for
decrease in salary, right? We were hit with that, but our standard of living still didn't change. And that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
Nowhere in America, in my opinion, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, where you can get a 40% decrease in your salary and you don't have to move.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, they say normal, average Americans are 2-3 paychecks away from homelessness. So just imagine cutting your salary like that. You could never keep that mortgage. We could have never kept our mortgage payment up.
No.
Period.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that still says a lot about the quality of, I don't want to say quality of life necessarily, but the affordability.
Yeah, and I would even say like we were in a privileged position to even be able to do that.
Yeah.
To be able to move down here with 6 figures, which went a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
A whole lot farther
than
in
normal.
Mexico than it would in the U.S. in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So, part of it is the affordability of Mexico, but also just being in a privileged enough position to be able to make enough money that if you lose a good chunk of it, you can still kind of survive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's sort of our income journey a little bit here. That journey is ongoing.
Yeah.
We have been, we've been paying rent and paying mortgage. Thankfully, we had some renters in our home back in our house.
Thank the Lord for the renters.
Yeah. So yeah, one of those things we're doing is right now is finally getting that house off our back. Like the house is kind of gone.
It's about to get sold.
So that's, gift and a curse at the same time because, as we said in the beginning, like that was supposed to be the forever home. That was the one.
Yo, that house was bad.
Yeah.
The house was bad.
Yeah. But I tell you what's better is sort of the life we have here now.
Yeah, that's true.
And the life that we can kind of build going further with just a better cost of living and a better lifestyle.
Correct. Because I'm a believer that our latter will be greater.
Yeah.
I believe in the Lord. And so our latter will be better. Yeah. It's going to be greater, Yeah. Because we're doing it for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
Safety, peace of mind. And we were young parents, right? So if anyone out there raising children, y'all understand the soccer fees, the baseball fees, the braces fees, the fees on top of the fees, and just life in general, right? And we weren't able to really have that 401k stacking cash savings program like some people had.
Yeah.
And so now we're on the other side of that, having adult children. So now it's like, okay, how can we make those numbers work where we can sort of kind of make up for that lost time, right? Yeah. So we're doing it for the right reasons, because we want to still be a blessing to our families.
Absolutely.
But living paycheck to paycheck and all that America has to offer, no thanks. I think we do better here.
Yeah.
797 podcast. You bring your total self to a whole new country. Now what?
Then you realize that the only thing that's going to change you is you. Right now, you're just the same old you in a brand new place. And what we're going to talk about today is the idea that you're going to come here and everything's going to be different. You're going to be a new you. All that old you that was back home is not going to come with you. I'm going to be slimmer. I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to be healthier.
You're going to sit on the couch and eat a taco.
Right? You're going to find every bakery in the neighborhood and get you an orange glazed donut.
What's going to change is that it went from Krispy Kreme to Panina.
A lemon-filled Bombolina? You better believe it. So, there's this perception that I think anytime you kind of leave one environment and come into a new environment, that environment is going to have this positive effect on you. Or maybe even you're thinking it's going to have a negative effect on you, so maybe you stay away from it. But, the idea that things around you are going to change you. But the truth is, the only thing that's really going to change you is you. All those changes that you supposedly are going to make when you get to Mexico, you should have made those back home before you came.
For the record.
Because particularly in this town, San Miguel de Allende, there are hills all over the place, cobblestone. So just walking around town is a workout. And plenty of people will be like, hey, when I got here, I lost 20 pounds. And that was probably until they found all the restaurants and the goodies at the taco stands, and you gain all that 20 pounds back. If you're somebody that's healthy and active at home, you'll be healthy and active here.
That's true.
But for us in particular, we live on a hill.
Muy subida.
Cinco de Mayo.
Right?
Has plenty of things, plenty of reason for you to go down that hill and get some things.
Right.
But when it comes time to walk back up that hill,
Taxi,
Uber, Didi.
Right.
I will hang off the back of your motorcycle.
What? Please
just get me up that hill.
Please and thank you.
And we both need to be walking up that hill.
Yeah, we do.
And we might do it every once in a while, every once in a blue moon. But we have not changed our habits at all when it comes to exercise.
It's true.
Well,
I did join a dance class.
You did.
We went on a hiatus because our teacher's on break. But still,
yeah,
it's not going to slim me and trim me. It'll just keep me from not dying. But we got to decide to change.
So along with that, food and exercise tend to come together. And the thing about the food here is healthier in general, right?
Yes.
Like there's less pesticides, there's less food additives if you avoid, the things that are brought down from America for the most part.
Affordable organics.
Affordable organics for sure. The organics basically cost what the normal stuff does back home. So if you want to go to the extra level of getting organic, you can get that as well.
And fresher and less, fresher. I'll say fresher.
Fresher, yeah.
Right? And less sugar for a lot of things. Like I'm on that green juice a lot because it's fresh squeezed, right? So it's fresh pressed.
Yeah.
And it's $1.50.
Yeah.
No sugar added.
Yeah.
It's just fresh vegetables and fruit. It's a
thing. If we talk about, this morning you wanted me to go to the store.
I did.
And what you did is you actually ordered some bread from the bakery.
See?
You'll put that thought ahead for baked goods, items like that. Have you pre-ordered vegetables or fruits from anyone?
Yeah, China berry. See? You got on that bus and he started it, cranked it up, and oh, okay. Yo, how are you gonna throw me under the bus?
I just pulled the bus up and opened the door and allowed you to jump in. You're welcome.
I'm gonna wait for the next bus. Thank you very much. China Berry
Next
Farms.
bus don't come for 45 minutes.
Thank you. That's all right. I'll wait.
Wait outside in the cold.
Uber.
In Iowa.
Anyway, the answer to his
15
question
degrees.
is yes. I have China Berry Farms. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that brings to a point of you're thinking you're going to walk everywhere. And then you realize Rappi can bring everything to my front door.
Yep.
So where you might have gotten up and gotten in a cab or walked down the hill, which is like, to get to the grocery store here is like
20-minute walk.
Maybe 20 minutes. If you're feeling frisky, 10, 15 minutes at the most. It's not a hard walk and it's all downhill. But sometimes you don't feel like making that walk.
So Rappi is our Instacart.
Yeah. Well, Rappi is like everything. Like Rappi has financial services.
Really?
Uber type stuff, Uber Eats type stuff, Instacart. Like,
oh, okay.
Rappi can run your entire life if you want Rappi to
bookmark that app for later to search it out.
Yeah, you can get a Rappi card, like a credit card kind of thing.
Really?
Rappi is on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just telling the people that that's an app we can use to order our groceries.
For sure.
And food too, restaurant food.
And you can literally say, hey, Rappi, go to a place that's not on your list and get me something. I have an order waiting.
That's
go pick
right.
it up.
They're like a
Rappi
delivery
will do
service.
whatever they want to do, whatever you want to do. Like,
Okay.
so it is
Yeah.
very much geared to being a service provider. So if you don't feel like putting in any effort to go to the grocery store, they will do your shopping for you.
Which is aiding and abetting a person like you, the introvert, the known introvert of this team here.
I think that's just, smart management of life to me. When they're going down and getting my groceries, I can be accomplishing other things at the same time. You know what I mean? Like watching the latest episode of The Gilded Age. You know what I mean? There's just plenty of things I need to get done in my life that they can help with. But in general, we're talking about, making life easier on yourself and the things that you're really not going to change when they get here. Unless you want to.
Right.
If you really want to, if you really see a value in the exercise and getting out and eating healthier, then you'll probably make that change. I can't say that I've made a whole lot of change just yet since I've been here. Pretty much been myself. I've been true to me the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
I've been living my truth. Yes, you have, honey.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I've changed some of my eating habits a little bit. I had oatmeal for breakfast this morning. Could have had greasy bacon and eggs and all that stuff, but no. I had oatmeal. High fiber, good for the heart. Thank you. There is no response needed. There's absolutely no response needed. So, something else that really has not changed in people that come here is bias. Is a little bit of racism, is a little bit of prejudice. So San Miguel being a high percentage of Americans, Canadians, we have a growing Black community, but you're still kind of outnumbered by, I think, older white folks here.
Right.
Many of which are cool. It's been a hippie community, so like plenty of liberal-minded people. But there's still some folks that wear the red hat that come on down here that don't like people of color. So not just Black people, but brown people, which always surprises me that you would move to Mexico.
Confusing.
All these brown people around here, and you don't like brown people. So some people bring their hatred with them. And the hope is that maybe some of this, San Miguel tranquilo lifestyle will cool you out. And you can just relax and be, a fun-loving, non-hating self, but it doesn't happen that way.
It works, but we'll see.
It does not.
Yeah. But we've come with biases too.
Absolutely.
I've had to change. The funny thing is, I had to change.
I think you have, gotten rid of some of your biases for sure. I see your bias around Mexican music opening up a little bit, just a little bit. It ain't fully there yet, but you're understanding it a little bit more. I think also like in restaurants, an interesting thing, the flow of service in a restaurant, because you are, Cheesecake Factory trained server, like everything has to be in its proper place at its proper time. And I got to greet the table within 5 seconds.
Very systematic.
Very systematic. And here service is not that way at most places. Right. They're like, I'm going to get to you when I get to you.
Seat yourself.
Come in. It's very relaxed. There's no rush. Which for me, I love just being laid back and they come back whenever they come. But those who want a more structured eating experience, they kind of need that formula of, okay, this is how I come to some kind of flow of service. So how are you adjusting to the flow of service here?
I'm adjusting well.
Okay.
We can move on. No, I am. Wouldn't you say? I mean... So I'm working on it.
I would say you're being quiet more so than adjusting.
Thank you.
Which is an adjustment in and of itself.
Correct.
You don't have to complain about something that you see is wrong, which is not wrong.
I am working on it. And I think the biggest adjustment when it comes to my internal change is not taking things personal.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, because
that's the biggest thing.
They are actually more personal in some ways, right? Like if they're at a table and they're having a conversation and we're chopping it up, like they're not in any rush to get away and get to the other people that they have to serve.
It's true.
I'm going to finish this conversation. We're going to talk about what we need to talk about.
Right.
And then when I'm done, I'm going to come over to you and get you a Coke or whatever it is that you need.
Right.
It's not so much of like them feeling like they're missing out on everyone else. It's that they're valuing this one-on-one
time with you. Same in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, Miss Cashier, Mr. Cashier, it's time to wrap this up. But they're like, I'm talking to my customer.
Right.
So we have to wait.
Yeah.
So it takes some time to get used to.
It does.
And I used to think that what I thought were white, traditional white people ignoring me and I said that they were trying to speak to me in Spanish, so they wouldn't have to speak to me in English, right? But come to find out, who appears to be white are actually Spanish-speaking Europeans,
Yeah.
right? Or more Caucasian-looking Mexicans.
It's called reverse racism.
There it is. And so, so I'm
No,
thinking,
there's no such thing as reverse racism.
No,
Racism
it
is
isn't.
racism.
Right.
Yeah,
So
but-
I'm thinking they're ignoring me, but I'm like, oh, they're actually speaking to me in their language and just saying good morning, buenos dias. And I'm like, oh, buenos dias. So I had to change my way of thinking that a white person isn't avoiding me. They actually were just speaking. So I
Right.
need to calm down, calmate.
And we don't even think about the fact that that divide between white and not white is in every country. It's not an American ideal. It is a global ideal. So you can be Mexican, but you can also be white.
Correct.
But it's an interesting dynamic to come here and you see a white person and you assume they're American or Canadian gringo. And they're like, nah,
No.
I've been here for generations.
Correct.
My people are Spanish.
Right.
We've kind of worked our way out of the indigenous community and now we're white.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting dynamic in and of itself.
And we don't know all the intricacies.
Right.
But what I know is that I need to fix my attitude
Yes.
and not think that they're avoiding me.
You do need to fix your attitude.
797. So you left your comfort zone, your city, your state, your country to become an immigrant, a foreigner in a new land.
The question now is, how do you go from being a foreigner to being a friend? How do you make yourself visible? So really what we're kind of getting to today is cultural immersion. How do you become one of them?
Right.
How do you make friends? How do you become visible, as it were?
Immerse yourself into the culture.
I think one of the first ways that we need to kind of get on board with for sure is learning the language. We've been doing Duolingo. We've been picking up stuff here and there. But it's really difficult, I think, to learn the language without actually having someone teach you for real.
Yeah.
Duolingo is great.
It's very helpful.
But it's there to make
Slow.
money. It's slow, right? It's a subscription service. The more months that you
Right.
run up that subscription service, the better for
Right.
them. So you might be on Como Esta for, 6 weeks.
Right.
Does it take you that long to learn Como Esta? No, probably not.
No.
I guess I'm going to ask you and throw you under the bus. I'm going to throw her under the bus. That's my thing for today.
And I'm comfortable there. It's been 25 years. Bus driver. Go on.
Why haven't we taken classes yet?
Because
Because is the answer.
because we have not prioritized it.
Absolutely.
I mention it often.
As do I.
No, you don't.
All the time.
Man, if you don't get, no, you don't. But I would like to do it as a couple. That's really my goal, is to do
Sure.
it as a couple. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's why I have not done it.
Right. But it's important. And I think one of those roadblocks you might run into is the fact that you can't be yourself without the language, right? Like there's things that you say,
How do you
things that you do,
communicate?
how you
Yeah.
communicate. In English, you can get all that just fine.
Yeah.
But when you're talking to somebody in Spanish and you're understanding the conversation and you want to say something in the way that you say it,
Yeah.
but you don't have the words,
Yeah.
like that's super frustrating.
Yeah.
And now I can empathize, I think, with other people who are trying to learn English
Yeah.
and weren't being able to bring their full selves to the table because you can't communicate. You don't have the words at the end of the day.
Right. Right.
And that can be very frustrating when you want to make that joke, you want to say that one-liner, and I have no
Or you want to
idea.
order that thing.
Right. And I have no idea how to do it, how to say it.
Yeah.
And even if it even still makes sense in the new language, like, the thing that you might say all the time might be a colloquialism, might be a saying, might be some slang that just doesn't translate. And they're going
Right.
to look at you, even if you knew the language.
Right.
Like, okay,
It won't translate
that doesn't
well.
make any sense.
Right.
So some of that stuff you even got to learn, okay, how do they say this thing in their language? What's their slang?
Because they have their own vernacular.
They do, for sure.
And what you think may be appropriate may not be appropriate, right?
Absolutely.
So like you would say something is hot. In Spanish, it's caliente. Well, in here in San Miguel, in this area, part of the Mexico, you're not supposed to say that because that could mean that you're feeling a little frisky.
Yeah.
So they say, no, say mucho calor, right? So it can be something just as simple, like it's a hot day, like, oh, you feeling frisky, right? So you don't
It's
know.
like even when we went to the Mayan Baths and got a massage, we were like, oh, the massage was muy rico. And she's like, no, rico was for food.
For food only.
Like what was going on in there was not rico, okay? This was, just
That's
say it
so
was
true.
good. It's okay. So even just simple stuff that you feel like you can be able to use anywhere,
Right,
you got to be careful how you use it because it has its own, connotation.
That's
Like
true.
we even learned that Chi-Chi's, the old restaurant, the Tex-Mex restaurant, Chi-Chi's means breasts.
Yeah.
It's a slang for breasts.
Yeah.
So like there's all this stuff you got to have to navigate and figure out.
But they have fun with us, though.
Yeah.
They're not mean about it.
Yeah. And those things you probably have to learn through conversation more so than going to a class to learn. So there's, the structured learning as well as just being able to talk to people. You'll learn a little bit more about what to say, how to use it. But that's really a big part, I think, of getting into the culture and the immersion and being able to kind of meet and learn and meet people. And one that's the issue for you, I think, is the local music. You are not a fan of the music in, I would say, Latin America as a whole, but, Mexico, mariachi, there's things like
Spanish
cumbia,
music.
all that, that's not your flavor. Why is that? You don't?
Is it not another bullet point we can go to?
No. And for those that don't know, we lost the footage on the first round of this, so we're rehashing this conversation to some extent.
You gotta tell our secrets.
So
No.
you hate mariachi. Just say it. Just say it. You hate Mexicans.
I don't care for
You hate
Spanish
Mexico?
music. It's not my favorite. And, after thoughtful consideration, it really just, it has to be in a specific situation. So part of me wanted to get immersed into our culture and community, went and signed up for a dance class.
Yeah.
Right? So thinking I'm going to be in there with a lot of Mexicans and, folks, native people. And like, okay, yeah, now I can learn some more Spanish. I can meet new friends. Like, okay. And then I get in there, there's a lot of gringos, right?
Yeah.
But, something that you've said before is it's situational. So all Spanish music isn't bad all the time, right? So in that environment, to learn the dances that go with that music fit.
Right.
And it was fine for me. Other than that, just that lack of drum, those drums and the percussions it's not palatable to me. I just don't care for it. And, it's all the time too, so it was just that it's morning, noon, and night. You get in the Uber, it doesn't matter what time of day, it doesn't matter what's going on. It's the same kind of music, that mariachi. And I just don't like, it's not my cup of tea.
And if you judge it by the mariachi that kind of happens in the Jardín in front of the parroquia, like, again, Mexicans are hustlers. On a busy night, you might find 5 mariachi bands in the Jardín.
In different colors, the black band, the white band, the brown band, green,
all
and red.
playing at the same time. And one band is enough to fill the entire Jardín with music. But if you get 5 going at 5 different times, they're doing 5 different songs.
That's right.
And they just happen to put together their band so they can make some money that night. And you got the bad singer. You got the guy on the trumpet who really don't know how to play trumpet that well. It's squeaking and squealing. It
needs to be fine-tuned, guys.
It's not fun.
Fine-tune that.
It's a celebrational music. I get it. In the right environment, it's perfect. But when it's done poorly and on top of each other, it's no fun.
Yeah. And it also seems like there is no wind down. You know what I mean? So I remember growing up and we had that, how do you say it? I don't want to say it's eclectic. I don't know if it's eclectic. It's just how we grew up. Yeah. There's jazz, there's opera, there's country, there's, hip hop, there's R&B. So it seems like we had a chance to experience different genres of music to fit different levels of life or ways or things that you were doing, reggae, just different music where you could set it and almost score your life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you're feeling sad, you want to put on some, sad humdrummy music, or if you're feeling up, you may put on some reggae, right? Some Bob Marley. So that's another thing too. It doesn't seem like there's enough, there's not enough mixture. You know what I mean? Variety in a way.
And I think some of that is our inexperience with cultural music in general, because there's, reggaeton, which is the Spanish version of reggae. There's salsa, there's mariachi, there's cumbia. There's a lot of different variations of it.
Yeah.
That to our ears may all sound like the same. Particularly I like to listen to, what the kids like nowadays is trap music. And to me, I'm like, hey, all that stuff sounds the same. In the same way my parents said all that rap music sounds the same. Like,
And
if
who
you're
can
not,
understand it?
if you don't grow up and you're not culturally immersed in it, you may not know the variations and the difference between it when you hear it.
Right, that's
So
true.
some of that is just, our inexperience. But I did want to kind of point to something that you said of like going to the dance classes. I think something that's important in cultural immersion is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Right.
Don't be afraid to go out there. If you don't know all of the words you need to know, if you don't know the language you need to know, go out there and do it anyway.
Just
Put
try.
yourself in that situation where you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And a lot of times you'll find that there's somebody there that's going to help you and come to your rescue.
Yeah. Or laugh with you. Because let me tell you something here. What this nut will do, this nut, I will call something out wrong on purpose, right? So, for example, getting my mani-pedi. The first couple of times I went, I didn't know the body parts and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just trying to immerse myself and have fun, break the tension, because there aren't a lot of black women here, right? And they rubbing up all on my dogs, and they don't even call them dogs. Whereas in America, I don't know if it's a black American thing or I don't know. But
it's a universal slang, yeah.
I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
So, my dogs are barking. And so I'm trying to, have a mani-pedi, and I'm letting them know, like for my dogs, mi perros, and they're like, "What?" And I pointed down at my feet, like, "Mi perros." They cracked up laughing.
Or your salchichas for your toes, those sausages. Yeah.
And I've gotten a massage, and I call my back or my giblets, I call them chicharron, and they crack up, So it's some of that too. I don't know, but what I am going to do is have some fun. I know.
And it forces you to get creative. Like, you only know a small set of words. Okay, how can I put these words together in a way that I can say what I'm trying to say?
Look, we were walking down the street and you were saying, "Oh, we need to get some bleach," and I'm like, "Come on," did he say bleach in Spanish? And I'm like, "I don't know." And then I said, "Jugo, blanco de jugo, or white water." I don't know what I said. It's like, I don't know, but you're crazy, but we can laugh.
But it's not far. It's Blanquiador, I think is.
Oh, really?
I think so.
It wasn't far off.
Yeah, you're not far. There's some white in there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I got bleach wrong. Correct me on what the bleach is.
But try.
That's it.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with y'all. Enjoy a little bit of San Miguel scenery on our break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Chris and Jackie, Aprende Mas. And we're talking about cultural immersion.
How do you become a friend instead of a foreigner?
How do you become visible?
Yes.
How do you get seen?
Transition.
How do you get to be known?
Yeah.
One of those new things that we've been trying to do is get into the food.
Yeah.
Because we are foodies. We were chefs for 15 years. We're, plus size individuals.
I ain't plus
we
size.
Enjoy a meal.
Cute size.
I have a Latin core. That means tacos and burritos around my gut.
Lord. So corny.
You like it. Thank you.
But the food helps you to transition.
Yes. So things like, I think for us, it was like fruit and vegetables, and trying new things. Things like wheat lacoche, which is a corn fungus.
So we treat like a mushroom. See.
Mame, which tastes like sweet potato pie. Which is crazy. And there's different versions of mame. There's a mame sapote, which is that sort of sweet potato we want. Then there's also a mame negro, which is supposed to taste like chocolate. It looks like chocolate pudding. It doesn't taste like chocolate. It tastes like, I don't know, mame.
Yeah. And you treat it almost like an avocado.
Yeah.
So when you open it up, there's a seed in the middle and the creamy flesh.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And it's like, is that sweet potato? All you need is some cinnamon.
Some crust.
And a crust. You better say it. It's so wild. It's like, wow. You're learning about all these foods, right? But for me, it's been more fruit and more indigenous preparation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
I do want to mention
vegetables.
cherimoya, and guanabana,
Sour
which is
sop.
like, it has a custardy kind of feel to it. And if you can't pronounce guanabana, for those that are old enough, you may remember the song from the Muppets, Mana Mana, doop doo 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 doo, Mana Mana, doop doo doo doo, Mana Mana. So when you look at the word, it looks like guanabana, but it's actually guanabana, like Mana Mana. Just a little fun fact for you
We
there.
appreciate your assistance.
We're here for your education and edification. But
it's
yeah,
good.
it's very delicious. It's a unique flavor, something to kind of get used to.
And guess what?
Yes.
We tasted the first time in a dessert in Mexico City.
Yes. That dessert in Mexico City, I don't remember the name of the
But
restaurant.
it was bomb delicious.
It was.
Yep.
When I remember the name of it, ask me in the comments what the name of it is. I'll remind you, and I'll put a link in there.
Yeah.
It was in downtown Mexico City where all the shopping and stuff is.
I want to say it was like a Azul's in the name.
Yeah,
Restaurant.
there's an Azul in the name. There's a
Right.
famous chef that kind of runs it. But
It
man,
was so good. But see, for me, that's part of the immersion.
Yes.
Go to restaurants that are not big box. Especially when you're, traveling around the world, you are going to find traditional Western big box restaurants, right?
Like we went to Guanajuato City and there was an Applebee's there.
Right.
I'm not going to the Applebee's.
Right. Applebee's, there's KFC's, a lot
Burger
of the...
King, McDonald's, Pizza
Right.
Hut, Domino's.
And it's okay if you get a, hankering, a Jones for a leg,
Yeah.
But as far as like your normal day to day, and I even do that at home. If I go to a new city, I'm in the States, I'm not going to Chick-fil-A. No, there's no beef with Chick-fil-A. I want to go where the locals go.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to get immersed in the culture. And so for me, it's just really important.
Yeah.
And so we went to that special restaurant, found that dessert. Yeah, we ordered dessert. And then it's like, what is this made of? And then we come back home at the market. I don't know if it's the fruiteria or the La Comer. And there was the fruit. Like, we got to taste the fruit.
Yep.
Get home. And we've been sold and hooked ever since.
Yeah.
We
And
come home,
it's even sparked conversations. Like I was at the fruiteria and I'm asking her, though, does she have mame? And another guy's like, you know mame? Like, yeah, I know mame.
Yeah.
I'm cultured. I know what's going on.
Right. Like,
I'm a local. I'm a local now.
Right. You know more about our culture. That's it, too.
Yeah.
That's it.
They appreciate that
they
you learn and
appreciate-
you dig into their culture.
Yeah.
Because why are you here if you're not?
Right.
You
If
might as
just
well go
stuck
back to
on
where you
bananas.
was. Go
Yeah.
back to Kansas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And speaking of bananas, last week we went to the fruiteria.
Yeah.
Got my
Oh,
green
yeah.
juice. Had to get my green juice, y'all. And we got a couple other things, but we left our bunch of bananas, right?
And about your green juice,
Yes.
you're getting to the point of when you go in there and get your green juice, she would go get the straw for you, but she let her go under the little tablecloth under the table and
I'm
grab her own
trusted with
straw.
my own pep.
She's now trusted with the popotes now.
It's popote. I wanna
Popote, not
sip it.
papita, right?
Back to the first thing. We need to go back and learn the language. Oh my God.
Yeah. Papita and popote, two different
They're
things.
two different things.
Your papitas get caught in a popote when you're trying to suck it up. I don't know why you would have pumpkin seeds in your drink, but you never know. Maybe it's an indigenous thing.
I'm so sorry, Spanish.
But I'm sorry to interrupt your story, but
Yeah, but no, but so
Yeah.
part of becoming, immersed in the culture, but that would have never happened at the grocery store, not at the city market, not at the La Comer. So we go down to our fruiteria that's on Cinco de Mayo. And we get our couple little goods, and I get my green juice that's delicious. And we forgot your bananas. Then I want to say 2 days later, we go back in for a green juice. Yeah, I'm becoming predictable. And so she goes, "Oh, you guys forgot your bananas." We're like, "Huh?" But they're special bananas. What are they called?
they're
Domingas or
Dominicas. The Dominican bananas, little small ones.
Little-
They're concentrated banana flavor. They're so
They're
delicious.
really good, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, "You forgot your Dominicas," and I didn't know what that was, but you knew. I think
didn't
it took
know
you a
at
second
first. I
to
just
catch
said,
on,
yeah,
right? And we're
yeah.
like, okay. And then she goes under the table, under the cash register, and goes, boop. And we're like, we did forget our bananas. We totally
forgot.
went over our heads.
Yeah.
But that would not have happened if we were not immersed into our community.
Yeah.
And she knew who we were. She knew exactly who. And she's like, they're going to be back this week.
Yep.
And I got this stuff.
I got their bananas.
What? So that's a small but big example.
Yeah, and it
Right.
makes me think about, all the times I was in the U.S. and you know, a lot of the Hispanics or even immigrant communities in general are invisible to us. We don't get the chance to interact. We don't see them because of language barriers, cultural barriers. But like, it's really important to make sure that you are known, you are visible, so that when you need help, when you need assistance, somebody reaches out to you. When you can help someone else, you have the ability to do that.
Yep.
So that you can make a new friend, so that you can actually be part of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And not come down here like I'm sure plenty of people do. And after a while, you're homesick and you're like, oh, I miss everybody back home. But like, you actually have something built here that keeps you here and keeps you engaged. Like, you know, we go through the Facebook groups and we engage with people there. There's different events and concerts we get into. We have a friend who's a singer, so she's always putting on stuff. So we go see her, Danielle. Shout out to our family Exodus. Check them out, Instagram, YouTube, all those places.
Yep.
So, you know, it's really about how do you kind of build that community here that's going to be able to support you, that you can support on you as well. Yeah. And what's going to keep you here and keep you engaged in this community as you're trying to get away from the nonsense back home.
Right. And remember I told you, I told Chris the other day when I was getting my nails done, shout out to my fabulous little nail friend, technician, Anita. She's so sweet, and she happens to be bilingual. She used to live in the States for a little while, and we're going to be moving to her neighborhood. Remember I told you that? And so we're going to be moving, you know, into her hood, and she's like, when y'all get over here, I'll take you around. I'm going to take you to my butcher. I'm going to take you to the lady who sells the clothes, you know, in her little boutique shop. I'm going to take you to the fruit stand. So I'll introduce you to the neighborhood. So now you won't get gringoed, right?
Now you got the hookup. Now they know who you are. That's your sign.
Anita's
friend. They're down now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So you get some appreciation around the neighborhood just by who you know, and them introducing you to people that they know. So you get that little bit of inside track, which is always incredible.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to end this episode without talking about one of our favorite local restaurants, Ancestro. Very different than a big box restaurant. It's not, you know, common. It is indigenous Yucatan food, and they have my wife's favorite beverage. And when we come up, they know that's what she's going to get. They call it saka, but it's horchata, but it's made with corn masa instead of rice.
Correct.
And it is
Muy
silky, luxurious, sweet, and delicious. And you can go there just for that if you want to.
Yeah, you really could.
But you would be missing out on all of the other delicious foods. I mean, just the basic tacos, your capuchino, your bistec, your pastor. Like, they have all that, but it's just so much better than your regular taqueria. And then they have things like...
Because the ingredients are indigenous. Not only is it indigenous, but they also do everything homemade and indigenous
They're in
ways.
there grinding corn, making their tortillas from scratch.
Correct.
Which is ridiculous. And like, that's a place that we go where they know our names when we come in.
They know us.
And it feels like home, right? That feeling of, hey, I know somebody here, they know me, they appreciate me. There's a lady I go and buy sausage from, and, you know, the andouille that I love from Galvani, and every other week they have andouille, and I always come on the off week, and I want that andouille. So after 3 or 4 times of coming at the wrong time and asking for it, I walked up to her a couple weeks ago, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I know why you're here. I didn't have to open my mouth. And she gave me a hug, was like, hey, I'm sorry. When you come back...
Wait a minute, back up. She gave you a what?
Don't worry about that part. It was just one of them side hugs around the shoulders. Don't worry about that.
She touched your shoulder.
She sure did. And she's going to save me some sausage next time I come over there. Thank you. It's about making friends.
Friendly.
No longer a foreigner. A friend.
Comments.
I'm now visible.
But it happons. I've got hugs too.
Whatever. Them little hot to trot taxi drivers trying to get in your drawers. Nope.
Lord, no. Plain and simple, guys. We have to do our part to get immersed into our communities. No matter what your zip code is, right? No matter what country you live in. Be brave. Get uncomfortable. Go out. Whether it's a local restaurant, a local grocery store, you know, a dance class, a language class. Get out of your neighborhood and go meet some people. Right?
And stay in the house and like, comment, and subscribe.
797. Are you the kind of person that has to have everything just so, just right, your way, no way, or the highway?
What do you mean they don't speak English here? What is this, Mexico? So today we are talking about things that maybe you should avoid, like Mexico, if you can't deal with these particular issues. Because, we talk about Mexico a lot, and we've been here for a while, and you'll see other people in the space who give you that impression that Mexico is the paradise, it's the greatest thing, you should leave and come here. And it is wonderful. It is great. It doesn't mean that it's easy to be here. It doesn't mean that everything that goes on here is something you're going to be able to deal with.
Correct.
We're all different. We all have our different tolerances and our levels that we can kind of handle.
And different needs.
And different needs.
Correct.
So if you come here or if you don't come here, think about these things just in case before you make your decision, because there may be some things that you're not ready to deal with. And I think one of the first things we'll talk about is the fact that you will have to learn another language. As much as they may say San Miguel in particular, or places like Puerto Vallarta, Merida, where there's a big expat community,
Cancun.
They'll say they're gentrified. They say they're tailored to Americans or tailored to tourists. And in some respects, they are true. There are places where you can go here more so that people speak English.
But that's only if you stay within a bubble.
That's if you stay within the bubble.
Like
if you're
literally,
in the Central Historical areas just outside of it where tourists tend to come, and it's not just American tourists, it's tourists from within Mexico, it's tourists from around the world. I didn't necessarily learn about San Miguel until the past couple of years, but it seems like everybody else knew.
Everybody knew.
So there are people from all over the world here, and English is a common language around the world. So it makes sense for them to be able to speak some English. But you will notice that their English is limited, just as well as our Spanish, as we're learning, is very limited as well. So if you're not ready to come here and embrace the language, learn the language, you may not have to be fluent, but at least have enough respect, I think, to show them to say, hey, I want to learn how to communicate with you in the language that you speak.
Correct.
In the same way that people look at, Mexican immigrants coming to America and like, well, you have to learn English. This is an American country. And like, you know what? It sounds ignorant, but it is true. You're in someone else's country. You should learn the language in order to accommodate them. You're a guest here. So what do you say about that? We're still in the process of learning our English.
Spanish.
Obviously, you see I'm still learning my English. But learning Spanish, and it's not even just Spanish. There is a Mexican dialect of Spanish. So there's things that you'll learn on Duolingo or in other places, and they'll look at you like,
that's not it.
That's not how we say it.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Like even Google Translate will take you down the wrong path, right?
Yeah.
I was looking for some clear nail polish, and I'm so glad our babies were here because, we have two children, our daughter-in-law and our son, who are both biliterates, so they can read, write, and speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to show off, like, I'm going into the little, to the beauty supply store looking for some nail polish. All I wanted was clear, and then I'm just like, Blanco? But that's not really clear. ¿Cómo se dice? And then I go to Google Translate, and then it's like, I repeated what it was, and I showed it to them. And they were like, yo no sé. And then here comes Landy. She goes, sin colores, or something like that.
Sin colores,
yeah,
without
so
color.
No, without color. It's like, oh, I'm like, man, what I mean? So it could be something so simple,
Yeah. And sometimes you have to resort to like maybe sticking an O or an A onto the end of an American word
sometimes.
Or an English word. Transparento. Like, no, that didn't work.
That didn't work.
It'll work like maybe, 25% of the time you'll get away with that. But yeah, if you plan on coming here, learn the language, learn enough of the language to at least make a respectable person of yourself.
Right.
Know how to go into a restaurant, order some food, know how to get a cab around town.
Yeah.
So that people can, at least know that you want to be here and you want to be part of their culture and part of their community. You're not here just to take. And I think that kind of gives off that signal of you're someone who's come here just to take because you aren't even willing to learn the language and fit yourself into the culture. You're just here for whatever benefits you think you can get out of it. And I think speaking to that, the next point we're looking at is the fact that Mexico is the same. Right? Things aren't really as different as they may seem. There are differences between the U.S. and Mexico for sure, but there are things here that, this is not paradise. This is not a crime-free zone. This is not a place where, people say it's friendlier, and yes, it is friendlier in general. but there's still be people here that still hate you, that don't like you because of the way you look, because of where you're from. You know, as we're doing this and, you know, growing our audience a little more, we get those comments on YouTube and on social media of like, hey, you're a gringo, you're a gentrifier, go back where you came from. You know, you still get that kind of stuff.
He deletes those messages before I read them.
I mean, they're not useful for anything.
Yeah.
Like, there are people who say things that are a real conversation. So one guy was like, hey, we were talking about the safety and working with police. And he's like, hey, don't have any trust in police. Like, it's not as bad as America, but it's still not all gravy here.
Right.
And make sure you know the language. Like, it's really important. Because he had a run-in with the police, and he didn't know the language, and the other person can tell whatever story they want to in Spanish, and you, like, have no recourse. You have no idea what they're talking about. So you're left out on, you know, on the hook for whatever may be going on.
Yeah.
So understand that, you know, as you get here, companies are going to be jerks. People are going to be jerks the same way they are in America.
Right,
You're going to run into racism here in some form.
You're going to have noisy neighbors.
You are always going to have noisy neighbors.
Unless you live out in the...
If you live in the middle of Texas somewhere and there's no one around you, I mean, even then, it's probably coyotes or something out there howling. You know, you can't get away from a barking dog on this planet. I don't think that's possible. Even right now, you may be able to catch a little bit in the background of some dogs barking, old Snowbird and Snowflake across the street, and,
we named our
Sultan
dogs
across the street the other way, and whatever the other dog on the bottom level is. But, you know, there's always sort of these things that are similar that maybe you just expect to be different because you're in a different country.
Yeah.
But like for you, what are some of the things that you came here that are maybe too close to America that maybe you didn't realize?
Yeah, I really was thinking more paradisey, you know, more quiet, more calm, if you will. And that calm really is just about the quiet and, you know, because it's so beautiful here. I mean, the sun shines, almost really 90% of the year, right? Sun is shining, there are beautiful palm trees, these beautiful flowers and vines that grow. And, you know, but you can hear every bump, every lump, every tire that rolls up and down these specific streets because San Miguel is built on cobble. You know, they paved the roads with cobblestone. And that's part of the allure for the visitors. But when you really are here longer than, like, you know, 3 minutes, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, you're like, man, I promise you, I don't need to see another cobblestone in my life. And for anyone who's been in the States, Baltimore City and Fells Point, there's cobble in, was it Georgetown in D.C.?
Like Savannah, Charleston.
Savannah, so you can get an idea. But those are just historical centers, you know, in the States that'll have them. Boston, I think, may have some too, I'm sure. But here, the whole city, a good 5 to 10 square miles. Cobble. And so it's the noise level. I don't know. I really did. I thought it'd be quieter. It ain't. You're welcome.
I would say also the weather, because, you know, it is perpetual spring here. Year round, you're going to hit a high of 70 at least pretty much every day. There was maybe 1 or 2 days where we got to maybe 50s or 60s. It was overcast or something like that. But in general, it's a nice warm spring temperature. But at night,
it gets chilly.
In your concrete home that has no insulation in the walls, it's just all solid concrete, it can get really chilly. If you don't have windows, you know, don't have a lot of windows, it gets really cold in there. So as much as I was expecting it to be, you know, beautiful primavera butterflies and, you know, hummingbirds, which are all here.
Yeah, they are.
But at nighttime, it gets kind of chilly. You're going to have to turn some heat on, or you're going to have to put a little blanket on or something.
Heater. Yeah, it's true.
Wrap a scarf around your head, which I'm notorious for.
Like
you got to keep your head warm.
He wrapped his head like a turban.
I don't have no hair. I'm bald. All
Lord.
your body heat loses through your head. That's scientific fact.
Funny.
So you wrap it up, keep it warm. But yeah, it's some things that you thought you were going to be different that aren't as different as maybe they seem. But on the flip side of that, one other reason to maybe avoid coming here if you're not ready for it is that while there are a lot of things that are the same, there are a lot of things that are very different. A lot of ways people engage with you, a lot of rules. I think one thing I've noticed lately, where I've heard a lot, is that Mexicans don't like to say no, just culturally. So they'll say yes and don't mean it.
They rather lie.
they'd rather lie than disappoint you and say no, which is,
disappointing.
I think for somebody like me in particular who appreciates just straight up brutal honesty most of the time, just say what you're going to say. Like if you tell me yes, I expect your yes to mean yes.
I'm expecting
and your no to be no.
Right.
And like, I think maybe if you're here long enough, you can like pick up the cultural sensitivity of when that yes is actually a no.
Yeah.
You can read it on their face maybe or something. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know when the yes is a no. You reach out to companies and things and expect to hear back quickly, and they are on, Mexican time.
Yes or no. Or not yet. It's either like a no or a not yet.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging because oftentimes you actually need that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I need you to stick and stay.
Yeah.
And
there's certain things to learn, like if somebody says mañana, which we think is tomorrow just means not
Later.
Today.
Not today.
There's also the word ahorita, which is like ahora, which means now. But ahorita is like now, but not really now. Now, sometime soon in the future.
You teaching me something, y'all. Okay. Where you
So like,
learning
yeah,
at? Was that Duolingo?
It's kind of like if you asked me to do something, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it right now, baby.
Understood.
And then it don't get done for 2-3 days.
Husband time.
There you go. See, now you understand ahorita.
I get it.
I'm gonna actually start using that a little more now because
You
it makes sense. It actually fits into my new lexicon and my language.
That.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. You are biliterate in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, depending on where you live, you may not actually be able to go like to a Walmart or Target and get everything you need.
Yeah, like you sometimes get the piecemeal your shopping list.
Yeah.
It is really true, especially if you want to be more local, you can go to, for example, Soriana, or La Comer. We say La Comer, but I don't really think that's the right way of saying it. But you could go to a La Comer City Market too. And they have pots and pans and different things, almost like in the States we would say like a super Walmart or super Target.
Yeah.
So you have those options, but if you're trying to wean yourself off a big box, then you will have to piecemeal and go to this store for your kitchen goods, or another store for your, like for example, there are butchers, right? Butchers that'll have just pork and beef. And then there's going to just be your chicken butcher who only carries chicken and eggs.
Yep.
So, and then your fruit stand, so it is interesting, depending on how you want to live. And then, of course, for us in San Miguel, there is no Walmart yet. Only a rumor that it's coming.
Yeah, there the signs are up.
Yeah, the signs are saying it's coming.
The big support poles in the ground, but the rest of it has not gone anywhere.
There ain't no concrete yet. The Sam ain't here.
And I'm not necessarily excited about a Walmart.
For the record, because we don't necessarily need it.
Right.
But 45 minutes to an hour away, you have Querétaro, and there's Costco and Sam's and big old beautiful, mall, 3-story malls. So it really is what is it that you need, but it's different. There's a difference for sure.
Yeah, and I think, like, to me, the Walmart is a street. So like we used to live off of Cinco de Mayo. Not everything, a lot of what you needed was on the street of Cinco de Mayo. And now we live in Las Brisas, so I think it's Avenida Colonial, has kind of everything you need on it. So last time I went shopping, there was the polleria on the corner, so I got chicken and eggs. Walk up the street another block, and there was the fruiteria. And then I go across the street, there was the butcher Dos Hermanos, so I got beef and pork from there. So it's kind of like, still everything's really in a small space, but some of those sort of odd things that you don't think of, like I need an extension cord, or I need, weird mixing bowls or things like that, you kind of have to figure out where they are.
Because it could be someone selling out of their house.
Yep.
Walking right by you, like, what in the world? She got a wild whisk. Let me get that whisk from her.
Yep.
Or Tianguis, go up to the market. Right? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of things. Some things are under one roof, but most of it, the culture, the way it's set up, it's in separate spaces.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about some of the things that maybe you want to think twice about before you come here. So one is making sure that you are ready to pick up a language to some extent. And also realizing that when you come here, things are going to be the same and things are also going to be different.
At the same time.
And usually the things that you want to be the same will not be the same. And the things you want to be different may not be different.
Come on now. Sneaking and preaching here, y'all.
You can't never have things exactly the way you want to. The goal is you're going to have to come here and adapt. And if you aren't ready to adapt, stay home.
797.
Yeah, so the place Danny and Elton told us about is like right around the corner.
Okay.
It should be a couple of blocks. And then
Oh Lord. Nah, we good.
you sure you don't want to go?
Nah, we got some spaghetti in there. We hope you guys are doing well and we hope you are enjoying our content. Please, please, please let us know. Give us some good feedback, some constructive criticisms and all that good stuff. Subscribe and like and comment. Yes.
And even if you don't give us constructive criticism, I'll feel free to block and delete your comment. It's fine.
Hot minute.
We just want you to say something. The algorithm will still count the message. It's all right.
We don't. We ain't that pressure on, I promise you. But you know we are living in San Miguel de Allende, Guanajuato, Mexico. And we just want to actually talk about specifics of San Miguel.
And specifically, why you shouldn't come here.
Yeah. We're going to do 3.
Even though we live here and we've already said it's a great place to live.
It is.
But depending on your situation, it may not be a great place to live for you.
Correct. And we just want to throw it out there to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've seen any content on San Miguel, the first thing anybody will tell you is wear comfortable shoes. But that doesn't tell the whole story.
Correct. My God.
Yes, you need comfortable shoes. Yes, you need to have some physical fitness. Yes, you need to have a good, decently strong heart. You're gonna have to have some fortitude.
Oh my Lord.
And a can-do attitude.
What?
Because you're gonna come up to some hills.
What?
And you're gonna say, I can't do that.
You like, I'm out.
You're gonna have a bad attitude for the rest of the day.
What?
You're gonna look up to go somewhere. I'm gonna walk. This 10-minute walk. Cool. Google Maps don't tell you what the hills look like.
And literally, because we're in a mountain, a lot of Mexico is mountainous.
Yes, it is.
So it could be slightly inclined to almost vertical.
Feels like you're climbing up the side of a mountain. Because you are.
Because it's a mountain.
But there is a low key. Here's a quick. What do they call them? Life hacks. Do your Google map, and instead of setting it to walk, set it to bike, and it'll actually show you the incline of the street if you set it to bike. I'm not sure why they don't do that for walking. Like, nobody wants to walk up a hill either or bike up a hill.
Babe, you never told me that.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Set it to bike?
Yes.
For the whole record, y'all, he's telling me the same time he's telling y'all.
Lies. Just because you don't remember doesn't mean I didn't tell you.
Noted. It is so noted.
It is very noted that you don't remember.
Anyway.
But yes, it is a physically demanding city if you are walking. If you have a car, it is physically demanding on your car. Seriously.
We talked about in another episode, the cobblestones here are no joke. And they will tear up your car. What would the driver say? They're in the mechanic shop, at least 1 to 3 every 1 to 3 months or so.
Yeah.
Shocks and what's other stuff for cars? Shocks, brakes.
Yeah, probably shocks, brakes, struts. I don't know.
Struts.
I'm not a mechanic guy either. I know. Because there's several times we ride in the cab and it goes up over the speed bump and it bottoms out as soon as it hits the bottom. Because guess what? The cab driver is not paying to get his shocks fixed just yet.
What?
He's going to wait for a little bit.
It's no joke.
It's no joke.
So the physicality of the city, that would be number one for sure.
Number one.
And this is something that we experience. It's so interesting. It's not necessarily that you have a physical impairment. Remember meeting Sunday and his family?
Yes.
So we met, and their families obviously live here, babies and children. But if you want to rock a stroller, it's going to be a situation. It's very, very bumpy.
It's bumpy, and the sidewalks are very narrow.
That's true.
So, like, if you have a stroller and you're rolling around, your stroller might not even fit on the sidewalk, depending on where you are in the city.
Yeah, so you got to be mindful of just things like that. And then, of course, if you're physically challenged, if you do have a hard time walking, right? Or if you have, since you mentioned the heart, we're on a mountain, so higher elevations.
We are higher than Denver, Colorado, and people think Mile High City, that's super high. We are higher than that.
So you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So bad backs, bad knees, bad feet. If you need any kind of rolling apparatus,
Yeah, Mexico in general doesn't have the same sort of accessibility guidelines written into law like we have in the U.S., where you have to have, ramps and wide bathrooms and all that. So, like, if you're in a wheelchair, it's a really rough country in general.
They're there, but they're just few and far between.
Yeah, if you're in a bigger city, in Mexico City, Guadalajara, they probably have more accommodations than, a small town like this.
That's
But,
true.
Yeah. And again, that brings us to our second point of why you may not want to be here. It's a small town. It may feel like a big town sometimes.
Muy poquito.
There's always a lot of entertainment going on. There is probably more restaurants here per capita than a lot of places. But it's still a very small town.
Like instead of a mall, we have a shopping center.
Right.
Instead of a super Walmart or Target, we have La Comer.
We have La Comer. We have Bodega Herrera, which is sort of the Spanish version of Walmart. I think Walmart bought them out at some point. But yeah, it's not the same selection. It's not. If you need a plethora of doctors, there's a lot of doctors here. But if you need a particular specialist, they may not be here. They may be in a bigger city like Querétaro
Or Mexico City.
Yeah. A lot of things like I buy cameras or electrical equipment or things like that, electronic equipment. And that stuff is harder to find here. You can find it more in the bigger cities, but we have, department stores like Coppel and Electra, but they're in the historical center, which means you can't have a big sprawling store. It's going to be stuffed into some smaller building. Half the stuff they have won't even really be available. You got to get it delivered to your house. For some reason, Electra stuffs 6 motorbikes into their floor.
If you need a scooter.
Right. So you can go in one store and buy a scooter, a motorbike, a dryer, an office chair, a desk. But it's like 1 or 2 options of each, except for motorbikes. There's 6 motorbikes.
You better know it.
So yeah, you're in a small town. Just think about if you live in a small town anywhere, your options are always going to be a little bit limited. You're not going to have those same luxuries that you may have in a bigger town, those amenities.
And so I want to make sure they know. All right, so stay with me here. Small town, no high rises, no subways.
Yeah, I think the tallest building I've seen is maybe 4 floors. And I know a lot of that is, depending on what part of the city you're in, is dictated by law. You can't build above a certain height. Because
it obstruct the view.
The views are a big deal here. They're moneymakers here. You can't block out the views.
Correct. Yeah. No subway systems. What else?
The bus system.
It works.
It works, but it's not well documented at all. It seems to kind of just come when it comes.
There's some kind of regularity,
I guess.
However,
but if it's not documented, how do you know the regularity of it?
You got to get immersed in the culture.
You go to a lot of cities and you got the little, kiosk or whatever with little bus route maps and things like that, or you can go to the website and see the bus routes.
Something like that, yeah.
That does not exist. There's literally Facebook groups that have, personally just put together these maps of buses. They'll hop on the bus and track it with their phone so they can get the route. You kind of have to make it happen. It's the hustle mentality of Mexico. Like, you're not going to tell me where the bus goes? Okay, I'll figure out where it goes then, you know.
But believe you me, the locals know.
The locals know because they've been here for sure.
Correct.
So yeah, small town vibes. Good for some people, bad for other people. And I think lastly on our list is
SMA is
a tourist destination.
Yep. For international and domestic visitors.
People think of it as Little America or whatever, and
no, it ain't.
No, it's not.
Having a Burger King and a Starbucks does not make you nobody's a little USA.
Not at all.
Ton of culture here.
And as a tourist destination, there are a ton of holidays that get celebrated here, and it's just a destination for a lot of Mexican holidays. So there's sort of the national holidays that go on, and also each little neighborhood here has its own festivals and celebrations. So there's literally almost always a parade going on. Every month you're going to have 2 or 3 parades.
Parade on parade.
For something.
And don't forget too, we're talking about, this is a mixture of indigenous and colonialized culture. Did I get that right? Colonialized.
I think that's right.
Colonialized.
Yeah.
I'm trying, y'all. So it's a mixture, right? So you have Mexican celebrations, but meaning that's the colonialized part, right?
Yeah.
But then you have the indigenous celebrations. And so... and then, of course, the part of the colonization here was through Catholicism. So they'll have religious events because of the Catholic church, and then they'll have religious events and other things here because of their indigenous
communities.
Indigenous culture. So it is a situation, and they like to celebrate with fireworks.
Yeah, welcome to Mexico.
Boom.
And also, like, as a tourist destination, things are always a little more expensive here. Because people come here to vacation, to have fun, to celebrate, and they're going to be used to spending more money. So again, if you're in that bubble, or if you're in Central Historico, things are going to be more expensive.
Correct.
Housing, food, I mean, the restaurant scene here is
bananas.
Crazy. It's, not much you can really compare to it. If you go to a big New York or a big Chicago, you'll probably have, maybe a little bit better restaurant scene, but barring that, like, this is a really great restaurant scene. But like all tourist destinations, there are the restaurants that are there just to make money. The food is crap. It's slop, and they're going to give you crap. But there's also the beautiful experiences that you can go and have in some of these places that is also expensive. So it could be hard to kind of tell, what from what, what's going to be a great place versus what's going to be just a money suck at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, a tourist environment, if you ever lived in a tourist town,
like a Myrtle Beach, you know what that would feel like.
Yeah.
People come here. There's a high season, low season, and you always got a ton of traffic when it's the high, So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
So like Myrtle Beach is like, you see people walking around with the Myrtle Beach T-shirt, and they got the boogie board. Here it's like everybody has the fedora on. You can always tell the people that aren't from here because they're rocking the fedora through Centro. There's the guy who has the stack of 55 fedoras on his head, and he's selling them for what was it, 50 pesos, 200 pesos, something. And he's just out there clocking dollars all day. You gotta have your San Miguel fedora. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, some things to think about. If you don't want to live in this type of town in Mexico, tourism is a big deal. Maybe it's too much for you to handle. You don't want to pay the extra cost.
The infrastructure's
different. The physicality of the city, and just the fact that it's a smaller town, even though it may seem like it's a big, destination, is actually very small. It doesn't have all of the amenities and luxuries that you may expect from, a larger town where you may have come from. If you're in a, Charlotte, North Carolina, or you're in, DC, New York.
Forget about it.
Even if you look like Jackson, Mississippi, it's probably more. Probably more is there for you to come.
There's no shade on Jackson.
I mean,
it's more sort of kind of shade on SMA, but it's just the truth, guys.
Yeah.
The amenities are different. The living is different. We just want to let you know.
Yeah, we don't want to present just one side of the argument. Let's present both sides of the argument.
Correct.
And really, the fewer of you guys that come here, the lower the prices are.
Rude.
I mean, we'll talk about maybe that next time, some gentrification.
I wasn't expecting for him to say that.
I mean, look, sometimes you get here first and you don't want nobody to come behind you. You want to keep your little...
You want to keep the secret to yourself.
This is my place now. I don't know.
But all are welcome.
All are welcome.
All are welcome. 797. What about the cartels? What about the drugs? What about getting robbed? What about getting shot? Aren't you scared?
Am I scared? Nah, I'm good. Today we're talking about, something that's paramount for a lot of people. We talk about living in Mexico. Do you feel safe? We live in San Miguel. Do we feel safe living here? That's always a question you tell family, friends. Hey, come on down, come visit. Why wouldn't you move down here?
That was the first thing they would say. You gonna be safe?
The cartels. They're gonna kidnap you.
Literally the first thing.
Yeah. So that's something that on a daily basis, I know I don't think about cartels. I don't see any signs of cartels. Are they here? Probably. The same way if you're in America, the cartel is there too.
There's a relationship.
MS-13, Mafia, all of them are running businesses behind the scenes. So you never know that restaurant you're going to might actually be owned and operated.
Right, a cover, whatever.
Could be anything. But one of the things I think that helps me feel safe here, that probably if I was back home would make me feel on edge, is the police force rolling through town on the back of a pickup truck, 10 dudes on the back. All with AK-47s. And women.
There are some lady cops, too.
Let me not miss out the women.
They be looking good in their uniforms, too.
And that gun, too. Something about the gun make it sexy.
But I already addressed the cop bay. You better watch it. But anywho, safety.
That's a good one. Start calling them cop bays. But yeah, Like it's a sight, maybe it's a little strange when you first see it, but like to see, you know, a force of people moving through with AK-47s, just rolling down the street. And like there's really nothing going on. Like they're not going to, you know, knock out a riot. There's not some big, you know, heist going on.
Right.
They're there for your safety. They're there as a show of force to some extent. What did you kind of think about when you kind of first saw them? Were you taken aback or did you feel?
So, because of my international travel experience, for some reason, other countries do actually do that. When you land in London Heathrow Airport, right, there are cops there with AK-47s as you are coming out of the airport. And it's like, or as you're going through the airport, it's like, yikes, you know what I mean? And so that was over 20 years ago. And so that I had seen it before. I believe in South Africa too, when we landed in Johannesburg or Cape Town. Can't remember my flight landing, but anyway. So I had seen it before. So it wasn't totally foreign to me. But what was foreign and is still foreign is feeling safe.
Because of it.
In spite of.
In spite of.
When I go back home to the States, there's a regular police officer and I get clammy. And I get a little nervous. And we just in a Chick-fil-A trying to grab a number one with some Polynesian sauce.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah, I feel safer here.
I think part of that situation is the relationship we have with the police.
Right.
Back home.
It's societal, right?
It's societal, right?
Correct.
There's a lack of trust in the police.
Correct.
If I see a policeman with just a 9mm on his hip, I'm looking at that 9mm to make sure his hand don't feel itchy that day.
Right.
But if I see, like, you'll see regular security guards here with AK-47s. And I don't think about it. I don't have that relationship that built up with the police. And even the things I've heard about Mexican police is more about, you know, pulling you over and shaking you down for some money more so than killing you dead in the street.
Right.
So there's sort of this established, I think, relationship that we have with police back home that we don't have here, which adds to the freedom of feeling when we come here in Mexico. We feel like this is just a safer place to be.
Yeah, and the other thing too, though, are we in a safe zone? Because you mentioned cartels.
Yeah, like, I don't have any proof of this. All I have is word of mouth from different people.
Right.
And they say the cartel has particular safe zones where it's like, you know, our families are going to be there. We have a truce. Like, none of that crazy stuff goes on. You know, I've heard of Merida being one. I've heard of Querétaro being one. I've heard San Miguel being one. Those tend to be places where expats go to a lot, tend to be safer. So it kind of lines up with the story.
Yeah.
But there's also been cartel shootings in all of those places.
You can't escape crime.
You can't escape crime.
Period.
And I think the reputation the cartel has is that they're there to get the person they're there to get.
Right.
They're not there to take out everybody.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. It's not random crime.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. Like when you look at, you know, comparing society to society, it's not just random crime. You know, you just minding your business at the Walmart and you may not come out that day. Right. It's, or wherever, you know, schools, offices, it doesn't even matter. It's not like that. It's like, it's targeted. Yeah. You know, it is definitely targeted. And the other thing I was thinking about too, the safe zone, those safe zones, some of them I think match up with the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So they have to have a certain level of safety because the government receives money for that distinction. Right. So we sort of kind of have it good in a way. Yeah. Like, there's built-in layers of safety.
Part of that UNESCO heritage makes this, you know, a tourist spot. So like, again, if you want people to come here and spend their money,
gotta feel safe.
They gotta feel safe and feel comfortable. And talking about sort of random crime, like the neighborhood we used to live in Carrico, there was a string of robberies. I think maybe 2 or 3 people that I've heard just via Facebook. Of people just getting robbed, you know, take their wallet, move on. So like there isn't like, we're not here in a perfect paradise where there is no crime going on.
Right.
There are crimes. People will break into your house. You still have to be safe. But, you know, it's not, you don't hear about a whole lot of killing. You don't hear about a whole lot of, you know, innocent people dying in gunfire, though it has happened. It's not an everyday thing where in the United States you feel like there's always some random mass killing happening for no apparent good reason. You know, it's not like there's a reason I need to be going after you. It's just I'm mad, I'm crazy, and I want to go shoot people up that day. And I have access to all the guns to do it. Right. And when we talk about sort of the idea that, there's petty crime here, people breaking into your house. The security and the lock culture here.
I've never heard anyone's home getting broken into unless it was unsecure. I've never heard of anything like that.
I've heard about somebody like jumping across rooftops to get to another house and coming in and stealing stuff.
Oh, okay.
But in general, like, they tend to take security and their locks very seriously. Like, any house we've been in Mexico, you have to lock yourself in. You have to unlock the door to get out. There is inside and outside locks on every door in the entire home.
Correct.
So if you're in the house and you happen to have lost your keys somewhere, good luck. You're staying home until the locksmith shows up.
Spider-Man, scale down the wall.
Yeah, that's if you don't have barbed wire or spikes across the tops of your walls.
Right. That's another piece of security they build in. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they are not blind to the fact that, we live in basically a townhouse and all of our rooftops line up. So like if you wanted to run 5 houses up and break into them, you could jump across the rooftops and do that.
Yeah.
So there is this extra layer of, put barbed wire or even put the broken glass. They take broken glass and put it across the top of the walls, which I'm sure is probably the more inexpensive, option.
Yeah.
But it does deter people because who wants to climb over that?
Correct. And a lot of their doors are metal.
Yeah.
And gated. You know what I mean? So we have to come through a gate to even get to a regular door. So there is a lot of security.
When we talk about do you feel safe in San Miguel de Allende in particular, absolutely 100% yes. We've been to La Paz, we've been to Mexico City. I would say I did feel safe in Mexico City, even though it's more of a sprawling metropolis. It's closer to like New York City.
No, it's bigger than New York City.
It's bigger than New York City. And it's going to be more prone to crime because of that size and that amount of people.
And there's a lot of cartel activity there as well.
Yeah.
Like just this last week, there were a couple of mayors. I believe potential mayors. They're having elections. They were taken out by the cartel. So there's, again, crime everywhere, but the bigger the city, of course, normally the larger the numbers in whatever you're tracking, right?
Yeah. So saying all that, I definitely feel safe here, particularly as opposed to the United States and even in other parts of Mexico versus San Miguel. I feel very safe here. And that's, part of the reasons why a lot of us are moving here, because as people of color, we didn't feel safe in the place that we were born and we grew up.
Correct.
So we have to relocate to find that safety. And historically, our people have had to do that at all times.
Yeah.
So it's just another form of migration that may be happening now. I think it is happening now. You're seeing a lot of it.
797.
But I say all that to say that Mexican culture is not something that's easily subverted. It's not something you're just going to come in and pay your dollars and get rid of. And I think the goal, or your goal should be, to bring your culture to this new Mexican culture or whatever culture you're trying to assimilate into and add to the culture, not replace the culture.
Not take it away.
So this week we're talking about gentrification. I think, as Black folks in America, you're usually, familiar with gentrification in some way. It's generally hit you in one of your communities somewhere in life. And we live in Mexico now. And the thought is, are we actually gentrifiers to Mexico? Are we coming in? Are we raising prices? Are we trying to shift their culture out and replace it with our culture?
Are we having a negative impact?
Right. So I think there's a lot of conversation about this online with, our light-skinned cousins in, Puerto Vallarta, where they, literally bought a place next to a restaurant and are mad because the restaurant is loud. That's where you purchase, sir. Why are you upset? And now they're trying to move the restaurant out.
Trying to get it shut down.
Right. So, the question is, are we gentrifiers? Is that even our intent? Is that a thing that we're trying to do? Are we trying to escape gentrification in our own place to go gentrify someplace else?
Right.
But I think Mexico is a unique culture in that, just like in America, it's been colonized, right? So the Spanish colonized Mexico, and that, I think of colonization as a step beyond gentrification of not only am I bringing my dollars to influence you, but I may bring guns.
My power, my force, right?
My force, my power, aggression to kind of strip your culture and bring my culture in replacement. And I think Mexico has been so long out of that colonization that it's really become part of their culture, right? Like the Spanish culture is integrated into the indigenous Mexican culture, and what we see today is a combination of the two.
For example, mariachi bands.
Mariachi bands, for sure. That is not indigenous Mexican music.
It floated over here, and they continue to thrive in that.
Yes.
They love that music, yeah.
You could also say pigs. Pork.
That's true. That's true.
Like
They
turkey
came
is really
over.
an indigenous meat that's kind of here in
Turkey.
Mexico, but the Spanish brought pigs with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we all know, pigs are delicious.
Man.
And they are the cornerstone of Mexican cuisine and black folks' cuisine, too.
Right.
We've all kind of adopted the pig.
Un
And,
chuleta, por favor.
you know, that I'll accept that gentrification. Bring that with me. You know, that's something you can kind of add to the culture. But something I think is interesting is that part of that Spanish colonization was really brought through with the Catholic Church. And the way the Catholic Church spread Christianity throughout the earth and the globe was to assimilate local cultures into it. So even though the Mexican culture was gentrified, colonized, they actually hid their original beliefs inside of the Catholic culture. So like when
Like they wove them together.
they wove
right?
them together. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
saints are actually representations of, you know, Mexican.
Maybe so they're gods or deities, right?
Right. So like they found ways to hide their culture in plain sight, which is a really interesting thing to think about, because I don't know of very many cultures that have been able to do that or even tried to do that. You know, in America, when we got colonized here, or so say North America in the U.S., that colonization, there was no ability to hide your culture within the dominant culture. They literally slaughtered people. They literally took them out, got rid of them. There was nothing left to even try and hide in plain sight.
The hints that are there as far as African culture, though,
Yeah.
there are hints there, you know, but we have to literally dig and, you know, they've been uncovered more recently,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, when it comes to like food and, you know, I think was very popular now is learning about the Gullah Geechee,
Yeah.
you know, and so when you, now that we can see that it is still there are remnants of that, but it's definitely not on display like it is here in Mexico.
Yeah. And I'm even thinking back past that to Native Americans. Like
That's
most we
true.
have in the U.S. of Native Americans is like names of places, street names. A lot of that is, you know, Native American languages. But beyond that, we don't get a whole lot of their culture, you know, mixed in somewhere.
That's true.
Which is sad.
They were pushed onto reservations.
Exactly. And killed. So, you know, it was a different type of colonization that happened in the U.S.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, I'm curious if there was, you know, a chicken and the egg kind of a thing of like, you know, they saw Spanish colonization in one place, and then when they came to the U.S. to colonize, they said, we're not going to let them exist as they want to exist. We're just going to slaughter them all. Like, was there some, you know, thought process or plan? For the
definitely
historians
a
out there,
difference.
if you know, leave something in the comments. That's
Yeah.
something I just kind of thought of in the moment. But I say all that to say that Mexican culture is not something that's easily subverted. It's not something you're just going to come in and pay your dollars and get rid of. And I think the goal, or your goal should be, to bring your culture to this new Mexican culture or whatever culture you're trying to assimilate into, and add to the culture, not replace the culture.
Not take it away, yeah.
There's something that you have to offer in being here. And it's not like you need to come in and start, you know, oh, I speak the language and now I, you know, celebrate all the Mexican holidays and I have to do everything Mexican because I'm in Mexico. Yes, you know, absorb that culture, understand it, join in where you feel like you can join in. But there's also something for you to bring to the table as well. And what you bring to the table doesn't have to replace what's there. It should, at the end of the day, add to it.
Yeah. At the very least, just don't disrespect what's already here.
Right.
You know, because I think that's what, for me anyway, coming from the States, for me, that's the saddest thing as it relates to gentrification. You know, because we're from D.C. You know, what? D.C. of yesteryear?
It's not the DC of today. Yeah.
You go down to Southwest, you go even to Southeast, it is a totally different ball game, you know? But they gentrified the entire city, the whole city. You know, we were just there recently, and we were driving to go and drop off a rental car, and my son was riding behind, so you know, it's like making sure he doesn't get lost. You know, we're in Northeast, going here, doing that, and then he got in the car with me once we finally dropped off the rental car, and he goes, all the people I saw today, I didn't really see any black people. Like, didn't they used to call us Chocolate City?
Yeah.
Son, they sure did.
Yeah.
That was our old nickname.
Yeah.
Chocolate City.
Because more like a peppermint patty now. Like the chocolate is on the outside and the white is on the inside, right? Like you kind of push the people out of the city into the suburbs.
Right.
And I'm sure in a couple generations it'll do the opposite. They'll push them out of the suburbs back into the city.
Yep. That's exactly what happens. I've seen actually a plot chart of that. If you Google search plot chart or graph of gentrification, specifically in DC, right?
Yeah.
You will literally see 60s, 70s, 80s. You'll see those the darker colors would represent the African American community or population, and then once we start to trickle out of the city into the suburbs in Montgomery County, PG County, right? Then you would see it get basically blacker, and then the city would get whiter.
Yep.
And then now it's going to have a reverse of it's going to go through another cycle soon.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Which is wild for sure.
Yeah.
But I know what I've loved being about being here is being able to see the indigenous cultures.
Yes.
You guys, after you like, comment, and subscribe, and leave us, maybe a little love token, buy us a cup of coffee or something.
Buy a coffee, please.
Go back to one of our other videos because, there was an indigenous program and ceremony that happened, I want to say it was a month ago.
Yeah.
And this is something that we don't experience in the States because the indigenous people, the Mexicans' cousins, they were killed, destroyed in various ways or removed, right, and put on plantations. So we don't get a chance to see their culture when they put on the headdresses and have the drums out and all those, all those beautiful things that are part of their indigenous culture, right? They've been around for thousands of years. We don't get a chance to see it unless we may go to like the Cherokee Nation, if they have like a visitor kind of.
Yeah, if you're close to a reservation, if you're in, Oklahoma
right?
or some of those other states that have reservations in them,
they
and you're
may
closer
have
to it,
something.
you may have something,
But here, they're going to have something every month.
Yep.
And you walk around and you can either hear it because they're practicing for their events, or you can see them because they're on their way to their events, or you're at the event itself. And it is breathtaking.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. And being here has changed my view. I don't look at them as Mexicans. And I told one of our young man we met last week, I didn't really know how to express it other than I don't look at them as Mexican. I look at them as indigenous people.
They're the Americans.
And not even Americans. This is before America Vespucci.
I mean, that's the word we had for it at the time. I'm sure there was another word.
Did you hear me
for
name drop Amerigo Vespucci? You remember that name?
Yes, the person who America is named after.
Okay, I'm just making sure you up on it. But before America was America, right? Before Columbus got on his boat, they were here. So I don't even call them, but indigenous, and they're beautiful. Oh my gosh, just how beautiful. And so I what saddens me most about gentrification, no matter what century we're talking about, is the fact that we're missing out on seeing that beauty.
Yeah.
Just being, that doesn't have to be your culture, but being able to see that and understand that they are people, they belong here. And they're valuable. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, just absolutely beautiful. Yes, I could talk about this all day, but I'm not going to cry.
So we talked about sort of one phase of gentrification, which is sort of a replacement of culture. But another one is raising of prices, like outpacing the market, bringing your dollars and really ruining everyone else's dollar because your dollar is worth more than their dollar. And that's something that is tough because, number one, if you come into a new community, you don't always know what the real rate of something is. You don't know what the actual prices are. Sometimes you just kind of pay what's there. And to you, because you have more money, it seems affordable. But until you actually speak to people in the community, to the locals, you don't understand that, hey,
we're skewing numbers, right?
You're skewing, that's not how much that's supposed to cost. So, again, the burden is always on us to come in and figure out what exactly are those prices? What should we be paying? And there's also a burden, I think, on the people that are setting the prices. It's hard to tell someone who has the opportunity to make more money not to make more money.
Yeah.
To say, oh, well, Americans and Canadians are coming down. They have more money. Their dollar's worth more. I can probably make another extra, 10,000 pesos a month on this rent.
Or Happy New Year, your tax goes up. Your taxi is what I'm trying to Your taxi is instead of 70 pesos.
It's 80 pesos.
It's going to be 80 pesos. Right.
Yeah.
Really? So.
I mean, there's always inflation in general. But, supply and demand is the system that we kind of say controls the prices to some extent, which means, we have an excess supply of money, which they are then demanding to get out of our pockets.
Oh, is that what that is?
So it's two sides of that coin, right? There's two sides of that coin. There's, the responsibility on the outsider coming in to understand what the actual price is and what the impact is. And a lot of us have this mindset that if we come in and we pay the locals extra, we're helping them out.
Right.
Or, this is boosting the economy. And that sounds like it's good, but it actually doesn't make sense. It actually drives up or drives down the value of the dollar at the end of the day, particularly their dollars, their pesos, I should say. And there's also the responsibility of those who set prices, who set rents, who say how much a meal costs. Just have a respectable price. You don't have to get every dollar you can out of it at the expense of your own local economy.
Yeah.
So, there's a relationship, a partnership that needs to happen between those coming into the community and saying, hey, what should I be paying? And those in the community saying, hey, we're not going to tax you, right?
Yeah.
Or what you should be paying so that we can actually keep our economy intact.
Right. Right.
And I think, that question of specifically in San Miguel, this being a tourist area. And even when immigrants come to the U.S., they also head to big cities, to tourist areas for one reason or another. Either you come here because, it's a beautiful place and people like it here, or you come here because
the infrastructure's already set up.
The infrastructure's here and there's work here.
And there's probably a community, of your specific group, right, that's already there. But like you say, the work.
Right.
The work too, right? The major cities is going to bring about an opportunity for a job,
right?
Versus those smaller communities. Yeah. So absolutely.
Yeah. So you always have to be careful about where you are, what you're going. I've completely lost my thought and my train of thought.
Watch one of our previous episodes about aging. Yeah, is Mike Tyson the new age, the new face of aging?
So what I'm going to do to get myself back on my train of thought is
take a quick break.
Take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsor.
797
On God, I ain't trying to take yours or change laws or eat your tree of life with the bite of a chainsaw or replace your Mercado with targets to aim for. Peace of mind's the only piece of the pie that I came for. And we're back. Thanks for giving your brother a break. Because guess what? Sometimes you just lose your train of thought and you got to regroup.
I'm going to talk bad about him later on.
So I think one thing I want to look at is, sort of many cultural communities, specifically I think of it in America, but they have them all over the world, like a Chinatown or a little Haiti or a little Cuba.
Little Italy.
When we were in Mexico City, there was a Chinatown.
Full of dragons.
I don't know if it was the real Chinatown or if it was like the fake China. It didn't feel like Chinatown. It didn't feel like it was big enough to be a Chinatown. But I feel like there's another one that we didn't get to in Mexico City.
I don't know why he think they was hiding it. How do you hide a neighborhood?
Well, just we weren't in the right place for the neighborhood. We were very close to downtown, and there was like one street, and it was all Asian themed, but there was no Asian people there. It was... It was odd. If y'all know where I'm talking about in Mexico City, it's right off of one of the big, buildings in the park and
like an alleyway.
Yeah, there's big shopping there, and then you go down the I don't remember the name of it either.
Yeah.
Oh
my Lord.
But it really wasn't. It didn't feel like it looked the environment looked like Chinatown. The people did not look like Chinatown.
Okay.
It looked like Mexicans in China.
Okay.
But anyway, as I was saying, are those small communities that are really set aside gentrification? Is that something where they're coming in and they're taking over a neighborhood and keeping others out? And I think my viewpoint on it is, and the situation is probably different depending on where you are in the world. But in America, a lot of those neighborhoods were really designed because of redlining, because, we know this influx of immigrants are coming and we don't want them in our space. So we're going to make sure they have no access to our area and we're going to push them into this corner. But I think there's a point you just said.
Neighborhoods in Brooklyn.
Right.
Were very much like that.
Right.
And there's some areas like even, for example, in DC, where Black people were allowed and where Black people weren't allowed.
Right.
I mean, it's very interesting when you can look at it almost like a board game and you can see what pieces are supposed to be where.
Yeah.
Right. But we weren't the ones controlling that.
Right. And it almost becomes a setup for future gentrification because we're going to push you into the small corner, into some place that has no value. And your culture is going to bring value to that space. So your community is going to get together. You're going to enhance it. You're going to build it up, build a community, build things that attract people, restaurants, food, attractions, just general lifestyle. And then we're going to look over there and see, oh man, you Chinese guys got a nice little area over there.
Right.
Rent's kind of low too.
Let's buy that out. Yeah. Like a Monopoly. Board.
Yeah, exactly.
I said board game.
Yeah.
I should have said Monopoly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So it's an interesting concept of like, you could look at other communities coming in and settling in different areas or being forced into areas. Are they doing the same thing of gentrification of like trying to carve out a home for themselves in the area that they have available? But it really ends up becoming a future setup for someone else to come
right.
I'll say someone else. We know who we're talking about. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I shouldn't even say it's just white people because that's what I'm inferring. But it could be anybody. It's generally whoever has more money.
Who is empowered
to kind of come in and take.
Controls the money.
Right.
And who may even control the city council and, who are the aldermans or, so whoever's in power, whether that's behind the money or behind the political power.
Right.
Power that pen.
Right.
And that's the sad thing for me. Because people just trying to survive.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? People just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And at the very best, we like to thrive as well without looking over our shoulder. And one of the boogeyman is going to come and take our churches, temples, synagogues.
Yeah.
Are you going to come and try and take, that block that had all of my resources? Are you going to come, like even in Harlem, come to Harlem and go, you can't have street vendors at such and such block or on such and such block. It's like, baby, that's the culture.
Right.
A couple of years ago, they tried to take down Go-Go in DC. Are you kidding? That's the heartbeat. Go-Go is the heartbeat of that city, musically speaking.
Yeah.
But you want to exit out like our light-skinned friend in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
So it's like, when is enough enough?
Right.
How much more do you need to take? I know I've even in South Africa, you cut a corner and then there is a Starbucks. But right here, you also have a desolate community. Where were you why can't we uplift these people?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you say, can we add to
instead of taking away?
Yeah. But add to meaningfully. Don't come and build a Starbucks and say I'm gonna hire them. Thanks. What about
come and invest in the businesses they want to have in their community?
Correct. Right. Yeah. How about you? Yeah. Yes. Invest in them. Educate them and invest in the schools and things.
Yeah.
My goodness, how much is enough? And what I know for me, being in another country, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be those people that come and just take.
Yeah.
I really, really don't.
For us, is the start of a conversation. We want to hear back from you guys. And as much as y'all been commenting, I know we will hear from you guys for sure. How are your feelings on, Americans coming down to Mexico?
Or moving any other place,
or moving
right?
anywhere. Like, as people in general move throughout the world, as the world becomes a lot smaller, as we, hopefully more of us are making more money, we're able to kind of be more mobile on this planet. How do you come into communities in a way that is gracious, that is respectful, where you're not coming in and tearing down, you're not replacing, you're actually adding to and bringing more to the table. So that's our goal in being here in Mexico. It is not only to our own benefit, we are hoping to benefit the community that's here.
Yeah, we want to add value.
Right. We don't want to be that boogeyman that comes in that you should be afraid of. ruining your community, bringing in, a Chili's instead of actual Mexican food. Like, trust us, we're not lobbying for Chili's. Chili's can stay where it is.
Right.
Don't bring them down here.
We just want to enhance the culture.
Exactly.
Not take it, not take away.
Exactly.
No.
So as always, like, share, subscribe, watch another video, buy us a coffee,
Share.
tell a friend,
Share.
keep continuing to comment as you have so far.
Share.
Good or bad, we're open to all opinions.
Right.
If we are devils and gentrifiers, then hey, that's your opinion. I may not share in that opinion with you, but do what you got to do, my friend.
Right.
Protect yours for sure. Because we have that same viewpoint about our own communities. We want to protect it at all costs and make sure that the right people are coming in and not taking over. And we want to be those right people here to come in and add to the community, not take away. So we will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Peace, y'all.
Cuídate.
Cuídate.
Oh, cuídense.
Cuídense.
Cuídense. Did I say it right?
I think so.
I think I did. That's the plural version for all y'all.
All y'all be safe.
All y'all be
Not
safe.
just one. All y'all. This is the 7997 Podcast, your home for raw and honest conversation, featuring Chris and Jackie, with new episodes every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts.